What's happening? What's happening? We are back. We are back, baby. Welcome to the podcast where we think we know everything, but we really don't know shit. But before we get into the show, I want to talk about what we got lined up. So we have a guest tonight, and I can't wait. We are going to pick his brain. He's a referee, or he's a retired referee. He refed in the Big Ten. So we want to hear what it's like to be a ref in big time sports. And also, is bribing really a thing? Because the way they fuck up calls, especially last season, the way they were fucking up calls, you would think they're getting paid to fuck that shit up. So we're gonna ask him, is that a for real thing? But yeah, we're also gonna start our list of top 10 Bears running backs since 1980. So I don't want to hear no shit about Willie Gallimore. I don't want to hear no shit about Red Grange. We ain't talking about that. We talking about since 1980. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. Get ready, let's go.
You are now rocking with the Chicago Clubhouse Podcast, where they think they know everything, but honestly, they don't know shit.
These summer league games and they tell you about these new up and coming coaches.
I think we should get rid of every motherfucking owner in Chicago.
Enzo and Caruso, both when they are on the court, are like your defensive generals.
But they need to get that strong safety who's not scared to hit somebody.
They really don't know shit.
So it is your boy T Nick, the quarterback, point guard, whatever the fuck you want to call me, but I'm back in here and we about to do this. So I don't know where my guy's at, but I will introduce the one that is here, my man who has that Hawk talk. And shout out to the Hawks, man, for drafting the dude, Connor Bedard. I don't really know shit about hockey. Frank is going to teach me. Also, we're supposed to have somebody come on the podcast and help. I don't know shit about hockey, but I do know that the highlights that I saw on this dude were phenomenal. So shout out to the Hawks for drafting that dude and not fucking it up like a lot of Chicago teams do. But hopefully the Bears got it right this year. Hopefully. We shall see. They picked the right position, though. They need offensive line. They got it. So anyway, I'm going to bring in my guy who has that Hawk talk. But we ain't talking about no Black Hawks today. we ain't talking about that shit today. My man Frank the Tank.
Oh, we're going to tune in a little bit.
A little bit.
We got to give a little bit of a segment with these Hawks. Other than Bears season on what I can't wait, I am so excited about. There's nothing other sport that we can be excited about other than the Blackhawks right now.
So, I mean, is there Hawk shit to talk about?
I mean, there is. They made another bunch of free agency moves. There was a funny little thing that got leaked out that the Toronto Maple Leafs supposedly offered our general manager after the draft, offered our general manager a trade for one of their star players.
Really?
So everyone had to click on it, clickbait. Wait, what? And one of their star players, Austin Matthews, they literally said, okay, yeah, we'll trade you Austin Matthews, but you got to give us Connor Bedard. you got to give us your other first-round draft pick, Oliver Moore, and 3 years of first-round draft picks.
Is this guy Austin Matthews that good?
He's good, but I wouldn't even trade Austin Matthews for Connor Bedard straight up, let alone everything that they want. So
why
supposedly,
would they think the Blackhawks would do that then?
That young 34-year-old general manager, maybe they thought he was stupid. Because from what I heard through my Blackhawks people that I know, that soon as that thing was said to our general manager, he hung up the phone. He's like, I'm not even giving you a fucking response into that. Just hung up the phone and hasn't heard anything since.
That sounds silly as hell.
Yeah, that was I laughed it like crazy when I saw that was leaked out. Supposedly a Toronto Maple Leafs fan leaked it out. So I don't know if it's true or not, but yeah, Blackhawks ain't that freaking
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true.
But yeah, I do gotta break down the draft a little bit. Give me like 5 minutes or something like that at the end of the show to break down the draft. But
all right, we'll talk about that a little later. I'm excited to talk about the top 10 running backs.
Because I could easily give you my top 5, but going back top 10, that's
top 10.
That's a good list.
Yeah, that'll be a good list. Hopefully, we get some people from the chat to chime in.
Absolutely, give us their top 10 in the chat.
I don't know where JB the Stat Man is.
Yeah, he's usually always here at the time.
Yeah, he's always here like right before time.
Yeah, right literally like right when we start. There's a reason why when you were gone, we weren't able to get the 1 minute countdown because everybody showed on exactly 1 minute before we were about to go on. So
y'all motherfuckers like
it wasn't me. I was always on time. I literally messaged you and said, Terrence, I'm hoping you're gonna hop on tonight because I might be running a little bit late, and I still got here on time.
So our guest tonight, man, he reffed in the Big Ten. He also has some other jobs we'll ask him about. But one of the biggest things that while he was in the Big Ten, he kind of, I don't know if he built a relationship with current Bears president, Kevin, what's his name? I forgot his fucking name already.
I got a total brain fart. That's definitely a name we should not remember or forget. I mean, chat, let us know. So I totally have a.
He knows him. He knows our new president of the Chicago Bears. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to him about that. But he hasn't made it in yet. So
it's just you and me.
Yeah, it's just you. Here we go. Hey, so let's just dive into some Bears, man. They're about to have the Family Fest on, I believe it's August 6th.
Yeah, first week of August, I remember.
Yeah, they don't really do shit in the Family Fest.
No, I mean it's a practice with a lot of people there. That's all it really is.
Pretty much. They don't hit or nothing. You know,
no.
They sign autographs. Look cute in their little shorts and shirt, I guess. But yeah, it's really nothing. But it's something fun for the family and something fun just to get a look at the players.
Absolutely.
And some of them may not be around when the season starts. You never know. The running backs that we have now, since we're talking about running backs, Khalil Herbert, Dante Foreman, and Rashawn Johnson.
That is a great 1, 2, 3.
So let's start with Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert, man, he has shown that he can be a featured running back. He's shown that. You know, he doesn't have top speed, but he does have this elusiveness, you know.
Yeah.
And he knows how to get out of that jam. But he is competing for his starting job.
I think it's going to be a real big rotationary type running back system.
It might be. He's competing because Rashawn Johnson.
I hear he's looking good. I know it's just
stepping up, man. I heard he's really been stepping up and looking good. So Khalil Herbert is not a shoo-in for the starting position. It's now he is to lose.
I still think he will start week 1. The question is, how long will he? I mean, he's going to get – I think everybody's going to get somewhere around 10 to 15 a game, all 3 of them, honestly. Because, I mean, Khalil Herbert, his struggle is inside the 20-yard line. He doesn't get you yards. He'll burst one for you, which you need those type players.
Yeah,
but inside the red zone, he's going to be a struggle.
Yeah. Then we got Dante Foreman. Now, I like dude. He's not super fast, but he can get out that jam. He's not super fast, but he's kind of like he reminds me sort of like a Demo.
I was just going to say that he is a pretty close replica to David Montgomery.
Yeah, Demo.
Like he really is.
He's not super fast, but he can get out that jam.
He will get you that 3rd and 1 type play for sure.
Yeah.
And even the guy we drafted too, he will get you that 3rd and 1 type play too. Like, I mean, we got a good 3-way setup of running backs. So
I cannot wait to see him at pro speed. I cannot wait to see that.
Yeah.
But you know what? JB the Stat Man just popped up.
What's up, y'all?
Hey, boo!
Welcome, JB.
What up, Playboy?
Man,
Nice for you to make it.
when I was trying, man, I had a kid that couple of kids actually they didn't get picked up from camp on time, so I had to stay.
Oh yeah, can't leave on that one for sure.
Can't leave them, So hopefully next time when I say at 7:00 start calling your parents, they start calling their parents, But hey, sorry for the lateness. I'm here. What we talking about?
Man, dove right into running backs.
We got right into running backs, and I want to address this by Sam. What's up, Big Sam? He said Herbert had more yards per catch than Montgomery last year. My response. So,
yeah, I mean,
what?
The big thing, and I mean, Samuel and I understand what you're saying, and this is something we have looked deeply into the stats with. The big thing is Khalil Herbert, when giving the starting position when David Montgomery went down, was averaging 2.1 carry or 2.1 yards per carry. So when he was handed the reins, he wasn't able to do it. When people game planned for Montgomery and we brought in Herbert, then he started tearing it up.
It's gonna be from StreamYard.
T-Nick, you're not muted, buddy.
Mute me.
You're muted now. At least he didn't say anything bad, right? Like,
right. So let me touch on that a little bit more too, Frank. Let's not forget, Herbert was brought on to be a change of pace back, but they also later on towards the year, hey Brooke,
my boo Brooke.
Remember there were times when they weren't giving David Montgomery the ball in the red zone, they were giving it to Herbert. Herbert couldn't get in, and they also weren't putting Corey Blasingame into the game where you figure if you had the fullback Blasingame and David Montgomery, we would have scored a little bit more in the red zone. So I figured all that was by design. Plus, I do feel they wanted to feature Herbert a little bit more so that David Montgomery couldn't eclipse that 1,000+ yard and have a real reason to argue the Bears for some
big money.
Yeah.
To ask for big money for sure. And Samuel, just to answer your question on this, I agree with you. You're 100%. The biggest strength that Khalil Herbert has is his vision. He hits holes so nicely, so quickly. It is so nice. But he can't block. He can't catch.
He can't run routes.
He will go down usually upon first contact. Might slip it a little bit for an extra yard. But the big difference between Herbert and David Montgomery was when David Montgomery was hit in the backfield, he was still gaining 2.5, 3 yards. That's something that's very good to have. Again, David Montgomery's not here anymore. I wish him the best. I don't wish him that much of the best because he did go to a piece of shit in Detroit. But at the same time, he goes to Detroit and then they draft a running back. It was just like I felt like that was just a slap in the face.
I say, but here's the thing. Like, as weird as this league is nowadays, right? You figure they say the running back is a dying breed, but if you notice, most successful teams have a pretty good 1-2 punch, unless you have one of the top elite running backs. Like obviously, I'm talking about Saquon. I'm talking about at the time of Dalvin Cook. I'm talking about
Derrick Henry at the time.
Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, remember Kamara was a 1-2 punch too.
Correct.
That was a great one. When he was elite is when they had that 1-2 punch.
And he was a running back that at the time he didn't even eclipse 1,000 yards. But what he gave you in the pass game, similar production when we look at what the Bears had to offer from the running back position. David Montgomery could give you something in the passing game. Khalil Herbert, his catching was less than suspect, but just the simple fact of running the routes out the running back position, circle routes.
He was even struggling in the screens.
Just, you could tell that he wasn't either comfortable or he wasn't called upon to really do much of that. Now, with this system that Getsy really has, to me, it's strange because Getsy's system, when he was a part of the Green Bay Packers, they threw the ball to Aaron Jones a lot. And with that being said, you would think that this Bears offense being similar, a Nathaniel Hackett-based offense is what Getsy's running, right? You would think he would want the running back that could catch the ball a little bit better.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which in my opinion is why you grab a Dante Foreman and definitely a Roshan Johnson.
Yeah, I was just going to say they drafted a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield too. So
absolutely.
I mean, I honestly don't see Khalil Herbert here in the long run. I wouldn't even be surprised if he gets traded. If he starts off good, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded halfway through the season before the trade deadline to try to get something. Because and to answer Samuel again, he brought up Kareem Hunt, but Hunt is still a free agent. I don't think we need to waste a free agent right now on a running back because we got a very good 1-2-3 punch. Like, I like who he drafted. I like Foreman, and I still like Khalil Herbert.
I'll say this to Samuel. Kareem Hunt now, at this stage, needs to be on a team
that's going to win now.
It's going to win now. Like,
yes.
I could see Kareem Hunt going with Tony Pollard in Dallas.
I can see Kareem Hunt going with Buffalo.
I cringe on that only because Dalvin Cook's brother is on Buffalo, and now that would be a 3-room.
So are you kind of thinking? Are you trying to say you think Dalvin Cook is going to Buffalo? I think that would be extremely smart if Dalvin Cook went to Buffalo.
I don't think so because why would you have two brothers on the same team? I actually think he's going to Miami.
It's another good one.
Yeah, it just haven't been. What in the world is that?
I am gonna believe.
Oh
wow! I didn't put that. That was a nice one though.
Yeah, that was beautiful, but that just threw me off because I just know. And then something else to think about.
You're still muted, T. Nick. Remember?
T, you're muted.
Now you're unmuted. Oh, okay, you're muted. Unmute. You're muted still.
Okay, can we not play who's on? Can we not play who's on first right now?
Quit playing with me.
It doesn't let me unmute you. It says can't unmute.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Sam,
yes, you are unmuted.
That slap was for you. And if you missed it, here it is again.
Oh, wow.
No, that wasn't for Sam. That was for whoever came up with that Mandarin language that was on.
Yeah,
Sam,
I deleted the comment.
Sam said that Kareem Hunt is still available. What the hell?
If you needed a running back, I don't mind having Kareem Hunt. But yes, we don't.
Sam, you my guy. But man, come on, dude. What do we need with him? We need nothing.
But here's the thing. I think Sam was just saying about galvanizing that room because everything that Herbert can't do, Kareem Hunt can do.
Then you're not wrong on that. And but I think we do have two other people that can do what
Roshan Johnson.
We do.
We got Dante Foreman.
And I like both of them.
I think we'll be fine.
I think
to spend money on somebody who has a name.
In that department, I don't think so. But I understand what he was saying about somebody that can do the job of both of what we're looking for. But my thing is, I kind of think Herbert is going to be on special teams after he's proven that he really can't, shoulder the load, so to speak. and it's going to be some kind of combination between him and Bayless on the kick return or the punt side.
You said Bayless. You
I meant
didn't
to
say
say-
Velvet this time.
I meant to say Velvet.
But that's okay.
I'm pretty sure that might be the first time you've ever said Bayless.
You never say Bayless. You always
Like, does
call
that
dude
mean
Velvet.
you're completely done with him since you're giving him his real name?
I'm David Jones.
He's still on the outs to me. He's holding on by a thread.
He's going to be on the team this year, but I don't know about maybe even halfway through the year. Because we got a lot of special teams guys right now. That guy doesn't figure out and with us drafting that speedy wide receiver, guess what? We don't need a speedy wide receiver.
Okay,
right now.
okay, Sam. I got you. So he wasn't suggesting that the Bears sign him. He was just suggesting that he's released as a free agent.
All right, hold up.
But so let me
Before you get into that, JB Samuel, this is for you to send back to Tina.
Oh, wow.
All right, just give it a little bit back.
Hey, y'all are silly. But what I was going to say is Tyler Scott, I don't think he's going to be special teams. I think
he's going to be a receiver.
He's going to be on the field.
If there's one thing I'm hearing at OTAs, a lot of great things about it is him.
It's him.
DJ Moore's saying it about him too. Like,
I've heard before we get to Samuel's just next comment, Samuel, give us 1 second. When Tyler Scott has caused controversy between Claypool and Mooney, that kid's going to play.
Yeah.
Right? Because for those that haven't really been following, let me divulge what I'm speaking about. Tyler Scott, honestly, has pretty much taken over that slot position as far as what the Bears are looking for in that mold. Not saying he is a Tyreek Hill, but of that mold. I read a report that stated that other wide out position was actually a competition between Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool for the starting position. Remember, they're going back to to a pro style 3 wide receiver set. That's going to be like interesting moving forward because you would think that you would want Darnell Mooney, as great rapport as Mooney and Justin have, you would want to further that with him being in that slot role, because then now you're looking at him putting up Hunter Renfrow or Cooper Kupp type numbers. Not saying he's those players, but I'm just saying through the position and the type of offense that they would run. That's one thing that I would say is very telling. I think another thing that could be very telling is maybe they're not caring for how much Claypool is not a blocker, but they also have to use, they have to use the kid to his strengths. We spoke before, Frank, with Ant Stewart about a DK Metcalf, and it's like, well, we have a DK Metcalf prototype player on our team right now. Same height, same speed, same build, same weight. But you know the difference? DK gets slants. He gets comebacks. He gets 50-50 balls.
It gets the plays that ran for him too. That's a big thing. And I still feel Chase Claypool is a damn good receiver. I'm not going to say DK Metcalf #1 type receiver, but he can be a 2. But you need to throw the deep ball to him to have him jump up and get that ball. Because, they did that to start off once they got him in the trade. I don't think he caught any of them, but he took 2 pass interference calls because he's a big body.
One of them was in a Jets game, which was not Justin Fields playing a quarterback.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that makes sense, right?
Well, but that was Trevor Siemian, like a veteran type QB, realizing, oh man, I got one-on-one jump ball coverage here to the outside. I got to take the shot. And whereas we hope Justin learns that moving forward.
And Anthony's got a good question here on this one. Is he worth a 2nd-round pick? I don't think you can tell yet. I think this season we'll know if he was worth a 2nd-round pick because he wasn't given a shot to be worth a 2nd-round pick last year.
I don't think honestly that he'd be given a shot this year because the way that he wants to run. Remember, if Getsy goes from 65-35 to 60-40, I'd be shocked.
Yeah,
I'd be shocked because he continues to grab all these running backs and these extra linemen because he wants to run the ball.
Yeah,
he does. So us having, and I hate to go back because as polarizing as this young man is, Jay Cutler had an offense where he had 2 wide receivers make the Pro Bowl. And a running back. The following year, he had a running back and a tight end make the Pro Bowl. That's what happens when you pass the ball around and put yourself in a better position to win in these games.
Yet he didn't make the Pro Bowl though.
And that's funny.
So, guys, let's table this for a second because we have our special guest backstage waiting to get in. And man, like I said, he was a ref in the Big Ten, and I can't wait to pick his brain about bribes. The way that some of the calls were made last season, you might think bribes is a real thing, but we have an honest referee with us tonight, and hopefully he'll give us the inside story on that. Plus, he's an actor.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's an actor. So we're gonna have fun tonight, and we are going to talk with him. So let's bring him in now. Ref Clem. That's what I call him, but his name is Lorenzo Clemons.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, now.
How you doing?
Doing all right. I can't complain. Hey, listen, pleasure to be here. It took me a minute to get in. I apologize. When you get as young as I am, you technology master you. You don't master technology. You know? So,
no problem.
That happens. That happens.
On it, you know.
We're glad
the key thing is you made it.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here.
Man, first and foremost, thank you. And thank you for your service because everybody knows you have a timeless, thankless job.
Oh, no, listen, I enjoyed when I did it. I retired. Matter of fact, another one of the guys that's going to come on with you guys is my good friend, Rich Reels, who just retired for the NFL.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So he's more, we were on the same crew together in the Big Ten. And so I was in the Big Ten. Well, I have a very interesting story. You know, I sued the Big Ten for discrimination in 2007. So, so if you Google my name, you'll see some of that stuff. Long story there, but I love officiating. I love being in the Big Ten. Big Ten, I tell everybody. I had a friend when I worked the first game that Penn State played in the conference against Minnesota, which was their first official Big Ten game. Mm-hmm. And a friend who went to Penn State, he was saying, when Penn State comes into the Big Ten, they're going to walk all over the competition. And I told him, I said, the Big Ten probably, not in terms of talent, but in terms of competition, it's probably the best conference in the nation when it comes to any weekend. And one of the best, and believe it or not, one of the best games I worked one year was between Indiana and Purdue. And between them, they had one game. But that game was unbelievable. So, you know, any questions you have for me, I'll answer them. I started out just give you a little background. I did high school, refereed high school football and basketball here in Chicago. I moved to and I did the CCIW, a college conference in Illinois, Wisconsin.
Yep.
And then I also did. Then I moved to the Gateway. I was one of the first Black officials in the Gateway Conference. So which is now Missouri Valley.
Missouri Valley.
Then in 1988, I went to the Big Ten. I stayed in the Big Ten from 1988 to 1994, when we had a little conflict with the new supervisor of officials, and I can get into that if you ask later.
Which we will.
and so I decided it was best for me to just leave the Big Ten based on my terms. They didn't want me to do that, so I sued. So, and later, 2 years later, they had another suit for a guy who was injured, and I I was a witness for that, and he won his suit. The good judge in the 7th congressional district, the 7th district, didn't see it my way, but that's okay. So I was there, and as also was an article that was written, and I'll share that with you guys. I'll send it to you in the Referee magazine, and it was part of Where Are They Now? It was a great article, and it talked about my journey in officiating and things like that. So in 1991, Richard Reels and I worked in what turned out to be the national championship game between Georgia Tech and Nebraska, Citrus Bowl. So if you pull that up, that shows up on ESPN. But the funny part about me and the Big Ten, and the reason that they call themselves letting me go, You can go on any given day on the Big Ten channel, and you'll see some of the games that I worked from 1988 because all my games basically were on TV, and I was the umpire. So there's a whole nother political aspect of officiating, but it's worthwhile. I hear you guys beating up on some officials. Some of the officials can change and can be renewed. I don't know what they do at some of the conferences that they do, but I don't understand some of the new calls and some of the things that they let go. So
that's what I'm really looking for now that you brought up the retired NFL referee. So I would really much like to know what the hell a roughing the passer actually is.
Well,
does it have to go with age? Does it have to go with man?
Frank, I used to think I knew. It's just in basketball, I used to think I knew what traveling was, man. That Euro step thing confuses the hell out of me.
Oh my God. Especially when you have people like LeBron James who takes 9 steps before he shoots.
Everybody takes 9 steps, man.
There's a lot of people. I still remember this one reel out there of Russell Westbrook literally walking from the free throw line all the way to half court without even dribbling the ball. Then was shocked they called a travel.
Yeah.
Like, really? You were shocked?
Yeah. Well, it's a funny thing about officiating. Part of the turnover in about 30, 40 years ago was not as great, because when I got into the higher conferences, I was like 40, so there were some guys who were grandfathered in. They still do that. Matter of fact, in the NFL, you've got some guys whose daddy was
Ed Hockley Jr.
Well, Ed Hockley, Dave Perry's kids, another guy out of Michigan, his kids. They were no better than me. I didn't want to go. And be honest, I didn't want to go to the NFL.
Nepotism at its finest.
Yeah. Well, I was happy with doing college football. I got a chance to bring my family. My daughter was young at the time. She's now. Her name is Dr. Shannon Clemons Good. She is. She's a sports med doctor at Ochsner in New Orleans.
Nice.
And she is the sports med doc for Xavier University in New Orleans. So, and she worked the HBCU Classic football game last year. And
really?
Yeah. So she, she's just like her dad in a lot of ways, but we argue and I let her be the boss just like I let my wife be the boss. And I understand the routine. Yeah, I understand the routine, but I would not trade it. I encourage any young person that's interested in sports. Everybody thinks, everybody 5'3" and 5'8" want to be a basketball star. Referee, learn the nuances of officiating, because there's a need for officials and good officials, and they need to be trained. A lot of guys move up, and then, like I said, a lot of guys get nepotism and a lot of guys move up fast. Before, I remember as a young ref, I had to go all the way out to the suburbs. I had to work both of the junior varsity game and the varsity game. I had to work the sophomore game, and that's how coaches got to know me. And then I started moving up and working, bigger games. And the public league was always good because the public league, you could work public league Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, and then I worked the Catholic League as well. I worked the Prep Bowl a couple of times, which was an honor. I worked in 1985 when De La Salle upset Julian. I had that game. So, but there's a lot of young guys out here that they missed the boat. They really should. It's ugly because parents are ugly now.
True.
And the fans are ugly. They scream at you. I only had to jack up one fan one time.
You jacked him up.
I waited in the breezeway, and I said, "What did you say about me?" And he said, I said, "That's okay. I just want to let you know I couldn't see you." But I have a picture from a game in Michigan, and it was Michigan versus Illinois. And someone threw a frozen orange out the stands.
Oh,
and hit me right on my neck. So I went down. I got that picture in there. They're all sitting around and going through it. And Richard is looking in. But what's his name from number 21 from Michigan? They made it All-American. He's on news. He's a news commentator.
Desmond Howard.
Desmond Howard. I got a picture of Desmond Howard bent down,
man.
looking at me, saying, like looking straight at me. I love that picture. That's one of the best pictures I have.
Did you get all Ron Artest on him?
Well, the thing, I turned around and looked in the stands, and Richard grabbed me, and the referee grabbed me and says, you can be mad if you want to, but there are 104,000 people. So, who you gonna hit first? So I just turned back around and finished refereeing the game. So they had a rule after that was like if an official is injured, then you gotta pull them out. But then we only had a 7-man crew. Now, I mean, I don't even understand. Now you got 8 guys and they still miss stuff. I don't even understand it. I really don't, because you have the umpire it used to be behind the defensive line, and then now you got a side what they call a C judge. I don't even know what that is, but he's back there with the referee. From the standpoint of being able to watch some things, it's good. But from the standpoint of watching holding and things like that, I think they miss a lot of stuff.
So, Lorenzo, let me ask you this, because that extra position, and I want to jump to something else too, but wasn't that only because that person only watches the quarterback for the roughing the passer calls?
Well, no, the person who watches the quarterback is really truly only the referee. The referee is always supposed to be, that's the referee's only responsibility. And if you notice, most of your good referees, especially with running quarterbacks, they roll out to protect. But it was it's always to enhance that late hit, and things like that. But it's also to see the line play, So part of that new position was to look, because he's really concentrating on the line. The referee is really concentrating. The referee shouldn't even know what's going on down the field until he's told. But now they've got so much technology now, where they speak from the mic and headphones and stuff. We didn't have that. We had to. I have calls that I made, and we did, and we had a conversation in our crew, and if you made a call, let's say Terrence made a call, and I made a different call, we get together, and usually because of the crew, we would have a certain thing, and my terminology was I would bet my career on it. Now that's a hell of a statement.
Right.
Yeah.
But with our crew, we trusted each other. And when we said things like that, if Terrence said, I bet my career on it, I back up and we go with his call. And usually when we look at the films, he was right to say that. And so that's what teamwork. I think now, I don't know if they have that same, people are officials to me look a little timid to make some calls sometimes because they have that coach in their ear. It's so many cameras because we were the Big Ten was the first conference to do after game review on film. I mean, officials had to meet after, so that's good in a lot of ways. But then there's a lot of second guessing, and then the commentators, who you really should, even though now they have an official in there to go back over. But even those guys sometimes get a little timid, and say, "Well, hey, Bob, what do you think of that call?" Well, and he's real slow until they see all the reviews, and then he says, "Well, I think I might have called a holding on that." Well, they missed it or they did miss it, but I'm one of those kind of people. Make the decision, right or wrong.
Right or wrong, right.
Right or wrong. Just make the decision. Don't hesitate. And I think a lot of guys hesitate.
And see, I had asked that because if you could pull up Anthony Stewart's question, which hits very, very, not question, but statement, hits very, very hard with us, because now we're looking at a lot of those calls where Justin was hit unjustly and no flag was thrown, similar to how Cam Newton would take hits that Tom Brady would take and would be a 15-yard penalty, personal foul, or an ejection. Cam Newton takes that same hit or worse, and there's no flag at all.
Well, two things. One is they had no respect for Justin Fields. A lot of referees. I don't.
You saying he hasn't earned it yet?
Well, I think so. It's a blanket statement because I saw the one game where Justin Fields, he got Christians. He got baptized Christian and dunked in the water, and he got up, straightened his helmet out, and the referee looked at him and said, "No, it wasn't that serious, but you knocked the hell out of it." So, but that's where I think sometimes, I don't know, and see, but here's where I wrote something in reference to the coach, his reluctance to pull the trigger on some things. That should have been a red flag. He should immediately, even if they told him to pick it up. See, to me, I think he's going to be all right. I really do. But there are times in game management to me, go off. You know, give them hell. And referees can take it. I mean, you know, you built that way. You're supposed to be able to take it. And if you can't, get out the game, because you go back to AMP and stock shelves. You know, you gotta make the call, and then making that call, you gotta be. But see, the other thing is about officiating, you got to put yourself in position. See, that's the key to officiating football. You got to be in a position. If you're out of position, you can't make the correct call. You know, so sometimes you have three sets of eyes on a pass interference, but you know, who's in the best position to see it, and that's part of it. And then you can't. And see, the thing is, you can't throw a Me Too flag. See, that's another thing that people need to understand. If JB, you throw a flag, okay, if I didn't see it, I can't throw a flag. The only thing that we mirror is a touchdown signal, you know, because I'm you know, you're letting people know that, you know, you got one, I'll go up, but you still got to see that ball cross that goal line. But I can't do a Me Too flag. So if it's my responsibility and I don't see it, then that's on me. But if you call it, I can't just say through it. I can't call it because you called it. Because if the conversation comes up, well, what did you see, JB? You say, well, I saw tugging of the shirt. Well, what did you see, Lorenzo? Well, he interfered. Well, how did he interfere? Well, he interfered. Well, that's not a good answer. I didn't see the tugging of the shirt. So did I see something else? Did I see a hand on the collar? Did I see a hand around the waist? Did he turn the player? Did he turn the receiver? So those are the questions that you need. But you have to do it boom, 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 boom. You can't second guess it. But see, with instant replay now, I think a lot of officials are a step slow because I think they're reluctant to pull the trigger. But you know what? Let it be like a gunslinger of the Old West. Pull that gun and just go ahead and start shooting. You're a referee, you know.
But that's when you start effing up calls, right? Because you throwing out something so fast and it wasn't really a flag.
Well, go back to what I just said. You got to be in a position to see it. I'm not saying just throw it to be throwing it, because you can't do that. But you got to be in a position. And see, every official.
You say be decisive with your call.
Right. Be decisive. That's it. That's a very good, JB. That's a very good definition of it. But at the same time, if you're out of position, you're not going to see it because it's going to look different. Because what looked like holding to me is not holding, because I'm not in a position to see it. You might be. And sometimes people will ask the question, well, Lorenzo, why didn't you make that call and JB across the field made it? Well, he was in a better position because I was up on the play and I didn't see all the parameters. But my officials coming in or away from the play, they're cleaning up and they saw it. So, you know, that's the best answer to that.
So what happens when a ref he pulls the trigger and it's totally the wrong call and he stands on it and it's so controversial and it changes the game? What happens? Do they just get slapped in the hand?
Well, see, we have to be careful when we say it can change the momentum, but it don't necessarily mean that call, unless it was just so egregious at a moment when it couldn't be corrected, then it didn't cause anybody to lose the game, because that's one play out of 375 plays. So, I mean, it was at the most inopportune time, and it was not. Now, if it was just an out and out blatant bad call, then that's when instant replay is supposed to cover it. That's when New York is supposed to buzz in terms of the NFL. But that's and it's also when the crews are supposed to get together on the field. I mean, don't get together on the field and talk about where we're going to dinner. Get together on the field and said, we had a call at the Ohio State game. I had Oklahoma State, Ohio State, and my head linesman, the halfback from Michigan, dropped the ball on the 2, and it went into the end zone, and it got recovered by Oklahoma State. I'm waving, touchback. My co-guy went up with the touchdown, and so we immediately got together, and I said, "Did you see the ball?" And he said, "Hamina, hamina, hamina, hamina." And I said, "Well, so our referee at the time, Tom Quinn, he pulled us both of us in the end zone to get away from the crowd." And he says, "What did you see?" And he was still hamina, hamina. And that's the one of the times when I said, "I'll bet I'll stake my career on it," on the call. When we looked at the film, it was a fumble on the 1 yard line, and a roll into the end zone, recovered by Oklahoma State. We got it right. See, the bottom line in officiating, what you want to do is you want to get the call right. And I think most officials go in the game. I'll dare say 99.9% of officials go in the game to do the right thing. Sometimes people get a little equipped or get distracted. You can't afford to do that, because sometimes it's like I said, one of the best games I ever worked was the most meaningless game in the Big Ten that year. That was Purdue and Indiana. So, but our crew worked that game like it was Ohio State, Michigan, and I've worked that game at least 3 times in my career. So, you got to go into it thinking, don't go in and say, well, the Titans this year are just so. I'm not going to put my all into it. I don't think anybody really does that, but I don't think they put the same energy in if it's Kansas City versus Pittsburgh or something. But that has to be fixed by the officiating crew or by the officiating supervisors in the NFL itself. If they see too much of that, then they've got to go back to the drawing board and decide on how. And same thing with college. You got to go back and see how we can fix so we won't have those problems. And that to me makes more sense because you have clinics. You go to clinics. A lot of guys work preseason games, but even before they were practices and things. So that's a time when the officials should be really honing their trade. And if they're not doing that, they're not a credit to the game, and they're not enhancing the game at all.
Bribes. Is that a real thing? Are referees taking bribes to miss calls or to make?
No, I listen. If I've been in some high school games where I've seen people favor some teams, and I worked the games with a couple of guys that at halftime I said, if I see you make another call like that, I'm gonna snatch your teeth out right on the middle of the field. Well, it was easy to say that because I was basically the biggest guy on the crew. So it was like, you might not want to go home the same way you go. I'll be waiting at Route 30 in I-65 for you. But no, honestly, most officials, and I say most, I don't say all, but most officials go into the game doing the right thing and attempting to do the right thing. Circumstances can cause a problem. It really can. The way the game is played, weather. I mean, football is the only sport that's played with the odd-shaped ball. So it's going to bounce differently. I mean, everybody else plays with a round ball or a round puck or something. But the football is oblong, and that sucker bounces when you don't want it to bounce. So I don't think I think the guys who are getting caught at it, I did see an old 60-minute story about Allen Iverson. Matter of fact, I think I posted it on the pod. I mean, on the site.
I think you did.
I did, and it was interviewing a referee talking about how they purposely picked on Allen Iverson. Now that's crooked. That's those guys should be filleted and put on the grill because they changed the nature of the sport. And that's blatantly cheating. I don't think officials do that. I mean, and even the officials I don't like, and there's some I didn't like, but I never question their integrity. Never.
So you've never seen any officials that taking bribes,
none
calls,
none.
really?
None. I stake my reputation on that. Most of the guys, I mean, there were some guys who didn't basically like me for being from Chicago. There's some guys who didn't like me because I was an African American official. I mean, those are the realities of the sports. Those kind of prejudices come, but for the most part, I've always worked with guys who really put their energy into it. Now, some guys. Now, let me make a point here. Some guys have a different pedigree of experience. If you're from if you're from the Chicagoland area, and you've paid your due diligence, you've probably worked more high school games than some guys have worked at Division II, Division III, and then if you worked some high school games and you worked Division II and Division III, I mean, you're well versed there. You really, I mean, it's not some places you can go and a guy maybe work an 8-game season. Guys who come out of the Midwest in the public league and the Catholic league who officiate in those leagues, they've worked 20, 30 games a season at the high school level. And we're not talking about JV and sophomore. We're talking about varsity level games. And then now with the state playoffs, guys are working hard so they can be eligible for state playoffs. And they hope they get the opportunity to move up to the next level. Everybody doesn't get to move up. I was blessed and I was fortunate. There was a guy by the name of Frank Strosher, bless his soul. Frank was an official in the Big Ten. Frank went to the Gene Calhoun at the time was the president of officials at the Big Ten. He was the assignment guy, and he said, "I got some guys from Chicago. I want to put them on the game." I had in 1988, 89. I had Michigan, Illinois at Illinois. At that time, Illinois was number 5 in the nation, and Michigan was number 3 in the nation. ABC national televised game. Everybody says, well, this guy's only been in the league 2 years. Why would you not take him off the game? And Frank and Gene Cal said, no, we're going to keep him on the game. And, and then they said, look at his background. He's worked, from some tough stuff with, the Gateway and all those places. The game turned out, Michigan won, Illinois should have. But it was a very decently officiated and a decently played game. And so that's the highlights of things that you do when you're officiating. You live for those moments, and then that's So I would stake my if you said the guy making a bad call, the first thing I look at is when somebody says the guy I look and see where the guy was positioned, and then to see did he have a clear view of it. Sometimes you make a call thinking. And you can't assume, just like anything in life. You can't assume. You got to know the facts. That's right. That's what that is.
Let me bring something to your attention real quick, Ref Clemons. I'm gonna give you a couple scenarios that have happened, starting off with from less egregious to most egregious, right? Okay. Where you said you try not to be placed in the game altering like that one play, right? But you'll have a play like the NFC Championship game where that DB from the Rams cleaned out the receiver before the ball even got there. No call. A similar
egregious.
A similar situation happened with the Vikings and the Saints.
Right.
And that was in a divisional round, I believe. Then you have some egregious calls where you see Dez Bryant clearly catches the ball 1, 2, 3, end zone, game should be over. They say, no catch. Tony Romo to Dez Bryant, right?
Right.
Then you have this, Frank. That is the NFC Championship game when the Bucs went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs.
Right.
What do you see in the red circle?
Okay, now you're not gonna like my answer here.
No, I'm asking for clarity.
We want to know your answer for sure.
I want to know your answer.
I'm gonna tell you right. See, there's a philosophy called engagement and disengagement.
Okay.
All right. The still of it is it looks like he's holding. He's wrapping around. Now, if that's a lot of things where guys buy calls now. So, but the rule is engagement and disengagement. I engage you, and can you disengage? Now, if you're standing there and dancing and saying he's holding me, you're not. What are you doing to get away, or if you pull away? And so, from the appearance of this picture, it looks egregious. It looked like it should have been called.
Right. So that's one of the ones. Okay, thank you, Frank. That's one of the ones where I think T. Nick can not necessarily allude to bribery portion because, like you said, that's infringing upon a man's integrity, right? Right. But the scaredness or the indecisiveness of making a call because of who's playing or who it is.
Well,
because remember, if that play happens, if that play gets called, they're like 4th and 30.
Well, no, I'm laughing.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. The quarterback on the other side is also a guy who gets a lot of those calls too, though.
Not compared to that other guy.
I'm laughing because Anthony Stewart said that's holding.
But when you watch the full video,
Anthony,
But I understand what you're saying with the disengaging. Did he let go before, right after that thing?
Right. And so And then let me tell you something too. The bigger the game, the lesser the call sometimes. And the
which that 12 verse 12. You got
and sometimes that happens because you want to make sure that what you call does not really influence the game. Now, in the case that you're talking about, where that was an egregious pass interference, it should have been called. I have no, I cannot play that. Now, with that holding, I've got to go back and look at it and see. I might agree with Mr. Stewart and say, you know what, Mr. Stewart, you're absolutely correct. But but the thing that jumps in my head is engagement and disengagement. Anytime there's a holding call, it's engagement and and then the other thing is point of contact. See, there are a lot of little variables. Like it depends on who it is. Now, if that's a guy that you know that's gonna wipe out the quarterback because he's fast, and that little bit of hand on the shoulder slowed him down enough so he can get away, that's a holding call. That really is a holding call. So you have to look at the situations as they are. Now, if you got some 385-pound guy, and he's breathing hard and it's the end of the game, there's a possibility he might not ever get there anyway. Even if you put him in the car and gave him gas. You have to think, did that impact the game? With that, you calling that, would that have impacted the game? I don't know.
So it impacted the game on both because that was a 3rd and long already.
Right.
That Tom Brady converted. But the full video shows where the drapage came around and he turned the guy like this.
See, you made a great point. If you turned him, that's a hold.
Yeah.
See, just that hand there, because they talk about the frame of the body, and see, it's a little murky than what it used to be. The frame of the body is from the waist to the neck, right, shoulder to shoulder.
So
right?
This is the legal one, right?
Well, that's illegal.
That's illegal.
But let me tell you how they get away with that.
Yeah, please.
How they get away with that. Guys take their hands, right, and if you notice, that's what the pads are getting smaller and smaller on linemen.
Yeah.
And I used to teach this technique. I'm gonna tell you,
they're getting bigger and bigger.
Right. But what you do is you take your hands and you take your thumbs and you go under the shoulder pads.
Oh, you try to grab the shoulder?
No. Wow. You have to grab. You go underneath with your
You're
hands.
saying it's
like
placed in there,
right.
pretty much.
Then you put your thumbs under there.
We can't see your hands.
Right, and then I can control you.
Got you.
See,
I can't see your hands. Right.
I mean, it's an illegal hold. But here again, engagement and disengagement. But I mean, some coaches teach that. Mm-hmm. I mean, because if you got a guy who's really powerful in the arms and powerful hands, that's I don't have to grab. If I get up under that, if I come up and get up under that shoulder pad, I can control you, and that's what they do. I mean, so because you see it, and that's why. And then now, because I have a concern for being an old umpire, I have a concern with how much defensive holding I see, and how much face mask.
Oh yeah, you see that a lot. Them coming up on first shot.
I mean, and a lot of it's not called, but now that's one of my pet peeves. Call that, because that can hurt somebody.
Absolutely, jarring of the
these guys
jarring of the neck, right?
They're so big and strong now, man. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So let me ask you this one too, because this one always drives me nuts. As a referee, can you define what is a legal tackle and what isn't? Because all these, I understand you're trying to protect the head. There's no question about that. But you're also trying to protect the knees. Like, you literally, I feel like, have chest to waist. That's the only place where you can technically tackle somebody without possibly getting flagged.
Well, if you have to go back, I was in an era where you stick your face into the chest.
Yeah, and you can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
you can't lead with your head.
And then a lot of that changed because guys were doing it, and they created these soft collars to go around neck so guys wouldn't get the neck.
Yeah, the whiplash.
The whiplash. And then, but when they started really wearing bird cage, I got a picture of me playing high school football. I had a leather helmet, so the old Notre Dame style. So
that's awesome.
With a I look good. I look like I was doing for the Heisman, man. But matter of fact, thank God for colorization. It was a black and white picture, so I had to colorize. So I look real good in blue and gold now. I went to Farragut High School, but
my mama went to Farragut.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, my mom
you
was
know,
married.
love them both, man. The what's because we used to also teach at one point in college. They used to let you tackle with your shoulders and head,
Mhm.
but now with the head injuries and
Mhm.
CET and all that kind of stuff, and I hope I'm saying it right, CET, but
CTE.
CT, yeah,
CTE,
CTE.
thanks. It's concerned. So they're really trying to take as much of that kind of tackling out the game. So now they want you to. It is hard because I mean, if you
That's
talk
what I'm saying.
how
The
to
fast pace of the game makes
fast
that
pace of the game,
so
it's
hard
hard.
to do.
And then if you're trying to move your head to the side, and sometimes I think unless they change some rules, it's kind of difficult because the guy's gonna get hurt trying to move his head out the way.
Yeah.
And that's what I was
Yeah.
concerned about
Yeah.
because if I'm trying not to hit you here
Yeah.
and I go low, but
Yeah.
then the receiver goes low,
Yeah.
that's a head-on-head collision.
Well, I
time.
played fullback and
nasty.
linebacker, and I was a headhunter, so
Mhm.
I would be no good in the game because I'm trying to take that head off, man. Did Buckets played a couple of years
Oh,
before
I
I
can't
played
imagine Dick Buckus
so
in
he
this.
was a beast, man. There's some people you just didn't want to get hit by, man. That's so. But I think what has to happen in terms of technique teaching. They're doing it a little more on the college level. So the concept. See, this stuff. I look at stuff now and I shake my head. Like guys don't wear knee pads. I don't understand that. We used to have to. I was the umpire, so I used to have to do the equipment check. So when the coach, I would go with the referee and we go visit the coaches, and then we say, "Coach," and they used to have the thing that you had to physically eyeball and check stuff. The only thing you really physically eyeball now is cast on the arm and stuff. But now you just say you have assistant coach, and you tell her, then ask the head coach, is everybody equipped properly? Coach say, yeah. And then no sooner as you say that, you got to feel you see guys with their pants up to their butt, knees all hanging out. But what can you do? I mean, you go ahead. I mean, it's the same thing with mouth guards. You look at it, the guy, as soon as the guy call a play, you take the mouth guard out. Now, the only thing I can say, if you're stupid enough not to try to protect those knees and those teeth, are you making $1 million? So I guess you can go get a whole new set.
I wouldn't want to get a whole new set of knees.
I tried to get this replaced. They wanted 18,000. I said, I'll go gap for a long time, man. Let it go. Suck that soup, man. Get a straw, put it in the hole.
So is there a big difference in refereeing in high school than the Big Ten? Is there a really big difference? I mean, I know there's a difference. Well, but is there a big difference?
Well, it is and it isn't. In terms of the quality of officials that you get when you move up, they get a lot better. Part of the lawsuit that I had with the Big Ten was I was the biggest guy in the conference, and they said that I made 13 mistakes. Okay, the most of any official in the conference. In 1 year, I was rated the 47th official. I was the last official in my position, the last official in the league. However, with all that so-called rating, they had to suspend guys who made bad calls, and so I got a chance that year to work the Liberty Bowl. I started not to go, but the guy at Frank Stroh said, "Man, go down there, enjoy. It's a big game." I got behind me, I got all kind of watchers from bowl games that I did this, so it worked out that way. My family was able to go down, but a part of my suit was like all my games have been on TV. The technical advisor who said that I made mistakes, I never got suspended. And then 1 year when they said, well, he's the biggest guy, we think his weight has something to do with his officiating. That year, 3 guys had bypass surgery and 1 guy had a heart attack, but it wasn't me. It wasn't the big guy. So I don't, it got to a point where, and see, I got a big mouth and I'm remonstrative and I give pushback. So when you're a pushbacker, you suffer the consequences of your actions. And and I've always been prepared for that all my life. I had my African DNA done, and on my father's side, I'm with the Crew people of Liberia, and the Crew tribe of people who fight for justice. They don't take no crap, and they refuse to be enslaved. And my mother's side, I'm with Haplogroup M, and they were the group of people from East Africa, not West Africa. They came out of Africa, went through Asia, went back to Africa, and came back out. So when I tell you my honoriness and my stubbornness and my pushback,
it's in your DNA.
So
you sound like a field as
DNA,
opposed to a house.
Yeah, it is DNA, man. I got to push back and talk about it. Matter of fact, I talk about it in, you got
a book.
Yeah, not just any nappy-headed son.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah,
What's the name of it?
It's on Amazon. And then one thing that I did pull out, I got so much of this stuff in the basement. That was my Citrus Bowl crew.
Nice.
That was my Citrus Bowl crew. Richard Reels it was two African Americans on that game, national championship game, and then this was one of my all-time favorite. That was from the. That was it's a funny thing, that game. I love that
Colorado, Nebraska.
That was Nebraska. That was Nebraska and Georgia Tech.
I was going to say that looked like Georgia Tech to me.
Remember that year, Colorado won the game.
That was Cordell Stewart.
No, because the officials gave them an extra down. Everybody.
Oh, the fifth down play. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody in the stadium. Everybody. The popcorn salesman. Everybody ignored that fifth down. So the argument with some people, where the assistant coach, somebody should have caught that fifth down. So
Yeah.
They crucified the officials who should have gotten it, but nobody in the stadium got it. So that year, Georgia Tech, I think they had one tie. They were undefeated. And so when they went to that game, the 1991 Citrus Bowl, Nebraska was favored over Georgia Tech. Bobby Ross was the coach then. Mm-hmm. And they had a black quarterback.
Was it Tommy Frazier?
No, it might have been Frazier. But they had a running back too that was – man, one of the best runs. You got to go look at it. One of the best runs that you ever see.
I want to say, like, Nebraska had no. Was that Bobby?
Well, you know who Nebraska had? Nebraska had
Mike Rozier, right?
The kid from Finger, the tight end who went to the Jets. He was. Everybody thought he was going to be the next Kellen Winslow. They had another kid. Nebraska had another kid from that played at Hubbard. But you had two Chicago kids.
Really?
And I got a book and I got all the roster in it.
Yeah, see, it's not.
Johnny, tight end. He went to Simeon.
His name was Johnny.
Johnny Morton.
No, Johnny Morton.
Not Johnny. He was a wide receiver one.
No, he went to Simeon. He played for the Jets and the Lions, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you. Right. What is his name? I thought it was Johnny.
He was on that game. Because he scored 2 touchdowns to help Nebraska come back. But Georgia Tech, man, they did a wump. They did a wump on that game. That was an excellent game. And so they had a split. They didn't have a playoff then. So they had a split national champion. So the West Coast and I think the coaches voted for Colorado, because Ross was the new coach, Georgia Tech, and the AP voted. It might be reversed, but the AP voted for Georgia Tech to be number 1. So it was a split. It turned out to be the national championship game. It was a great experience. Great experience.
Like I said, I know I was a youngster, but I remember watching.
Well, you can pull it up. You can pull it up on the 1991 Citrus Bowl.
Probably, I remember watching. I don't think it was Tommy Frazier just yet, because Tommy Frazier, I think it's like 92 to 96.
Yeah.
Tom Osborne was the coach.
Tom Osborne was the coach. Tom Osborne was coach.
Tom Osborne.
No, you had a Hispanic guy at quarterback that was had a Hispanic name.
Right, that's what I was thinking. That was the year before.
Right, and then December '91, I worked the Liberty Bowl, which is Mississippi State and Air Force. I got a trill out of that because I'm an Air Force veteran.
Oh,
but
thank you for your service. Salute.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But it was really
absolutely.
It was really a lot of fun because they treated you nice. And I got to see the falcon fly over my head, which I ducked every time. It was wonderful. I'm like, I said, now it might be the only time that this falcon decides he's gonna have some black meat. So I got to make sure I keep an eye on him. I'm like, I'm your friend. But it was a great game. what's his name was the coach. But a funny thing happened. They sent us. They took us to all the events. We went to see Graceland, which is amazing to go see. Elvis Presley was kind of nasty individual.
Elvis was racist.
Yeah, no, he was just he was just oversexed. They wouldn't even let us go upstairs. Well, that's what I'm told. I don't want to get sued.
Fuck man, John Wayne.
That's what I'm told. I mean, but anytime you go into the tour, and it's so tacky. You see shag carpet all up the walls and stuff like that. It's like, Elvis, come on, man. Could you just one nice little pile of carpet? But they had a guy, black quarterback from Mississippi State, who was very, very talented. So at the banquet, Jackie Sherrill, the coach, was at, he spoke at the banquet. And so I'm sitting there and I'm about to cry because he says, and I can't think of the quarterback's name. We went to the children's hospital and the players just gave of themselves. And he says, and our quarterback, he knelt down next to a kid and whispered and hugged him and told him that he's going to play the game for him. I'm like, oh my God, what a story. So when we go to visit the coaches, and I'm I'm checking on the equipment and stuff. So I talked to the quarterback. I said, man, that's wonderful that you guys went to the children's hospital and that story that you really took this kid under your wing and knelt down and got to his heart. He said, what kid? What visit? I'm like, huh? Yeah, I'm like Scooby-Doo. I never said anything else about that. I just said such a good story. I just keep it with my heart, and I can't take those tears back. That I was like, oh, so how touching. I'm nothing but a big softy anyway.
Johnny Mitchell, by the way, was the name.
That's him. That's him.
Tight end played at Simeon.
Excellent ball player. He should have lasted. He was an excellent tight end. Matter of fact, it's nothing like hearing Jackson, the announcer, say his name. He gave him praises, and then Keith Jackson, and then Keith, and I got a thrill because I've got about 4 or 5 different clips where I've had all the top announcers say my name as umpire, and so I was like, oh, I love that, man. Sometimes when my ego needs a boost, I just turn to say, Keith. Umpire Lorenzo Clemons. Okay, back again. No, I'm not. My daughter might say I'm that narcissist, but I'm not that narcissistic.
I mean, what you've done, you deserve to be. Now, I have a question for you.
Yes.
It's a little odd, but it's been talked about even when I was in school. I heard, now tell me if I'm just way off base, they treat the conferences differently the way they ref. Between the ACC, they more defense. From the SEC, it's more NFL based. To the Pac-12, it's more wide open pass. Well, no, the Pac-10 back then.
Right.
And then the Big Ten is all about line play. Is there any truth to any of that, or it just happens to be where the best of everybody comes from?
Well, what it does in officiating, conferences have different styles.
So that is accurate.
So you have to officiate for the game that you're working.
Mm-hmm.
So, they used to be split crews, right? Okay, and they would, for instance, when the Pac-10 played the Big Ten, you might have if it was at a Big Ten site, you have 4 Big Ten officials and 3 Pac-10 officials. Matter of fact, I worked the Notre Dame game. They were then independent, but I worked with the East Coast referee crew. Mm-hmm. So it was 3 of us from the Big Ten and 4 guys from the East Coast. So they started complaining about that and saying that, people seemed like they were favoring, So
that's where I was going with it because
then they changed it to say, well, okay, the home team would get the visiting 7 from, so the visiting 7 would bring their crew from their conference, not their crew. Not we. I'm Michigan.
You're not the team's crew.
Yeah, from the conference. So the referees come from the Big Ten conference to work that game. Let's say at Notre Dame, they'll send the whole full crew because they used to do the split crew for the bowl game. You see, back 30, 40 years ago, remember, the only tie-in the Big Ten had to a bowl game was just
the Rose Bowl.
The Rose Bowl. And then so more and more things now the Big Ten they always qualify seven teams in football. Basketball is less of an issue because you have a lot of guys in basketball. Most of your football officials, if they work the Big Ten conference, that's the conference they work. They don't work the Pac-10. They don't work the ACC. In basketball, if Frank was a football, he could work the Pac-10. He could work the Big Ten. He could work the SEC.
He can travel.
He can travel. Now, there was a guy, African American guy from St. Louis. I can't think of his name. Forgive me for sometimes remembering his name. It's been a while, but he was a pilot. So he worked. You would see him 4 or 5 different conferences because he would fly himself. Because normally you have to be there the day before. In football, you have to be there the day before for meetings, and then you go to the game, and then sometimes afterwards you have to do film. So you might go home or you might wait till the next day. But basketball, that's how basketball is different. So that's how the guys get top rated because they work for. And then usually you have a guy, depending on who the coach is, his familiarity might be with T-Rick and say, okay, T, I need you to work my games. Okay, but then Lorenzo Clemons might say, give me your schedule, from the Pac-10, so I can give you my open dates. And so that's how that works, because the basketball is not as restrictive about that.
And is that based upon said crew chief? Because like you just said, how do you the Rose Bowl? Let's just say one year it's Michigan versus USC at the time. How do you differentiate? Because the Rose Bowl is normally in Pasadena.
Well, but it was a tie-in bowl, and so what they mean by that, you had the Pac-10 and the Pac-10 and the Big Ten. They're winner of their conference. They're not necessarily winner, but they got they're representative, because sometimes I think one year Michigan should have gone, but the runner-up went. And I think it was based on schedule.
Oh, because one of them may have been national title worthy.
Right.
Okay.
So that was kind of, now it's so open because it's all, everything now is a money tie-in from sponsorship.
Clearly.
I mean, anytime you can go to Idaho in December and call it a bowl game, play on the blue field or wherever that place is up there. Boise, yeah, go up to Boise. I mean, as an official, I was glad when I was in the Missouri Valley to get Northern Iowa in November, and the reason would be because Northern Iowa would play in a dome. So I was like, oh yeah, short sleeves, go up to Minnesota. I didn't care how bad Minnesota played. I was in the dome in late November. It's like, but the quality of the players has gotten so much better, and the quality of coaching has gotten so much better. The game itself is in its purest form is still very, very entertaining. And then one of the things that our referee, Tom Quinn, used to say, you got to officiate the game in such a way as the players can play, the coaches can coach, and the fans can enjoy. And you want to be even though you are the third team on the field, you want to be less intrusive, and you don't want to be the one that they're talking about at the end of the game. In the Michigan Ohio State game, that umpire made this call and it changed. I mean, of course, the fans believe that. I mean, I got another funny story for you. Coach Cooper at Ohio State hadn't beat Michigan. Okay, and so Michigan and Ohio State were playing. Good game. So it got down.
Was that Bo? Who was that at the time?
No, Bo had left. It was because he used to call my name all the time. Lorenzo. He used to be a coach at Illinois, but at one time he was head coach at Illinois. It'll come to me in a minute. But the game was getting down to the numbers. Michigan was driving, and Michigan fumbled. Ohio State gets the ball, and so Ohio State, let's go. So Ohio State goes down and fumbles the ball, and so now but the score is tied now. So Cooper's like, he knows that if he ties Michigan, his career is going to be all right, right? So he's like, wind the clock. Michigan fumbles again. Ohio State gets the ball. Cooper, stop the clock, I'm like, man. But he tied the game, and he stayed on. He got a 4 more year contract. But that was, you have little stories like that with coaches. Perlis was at Michigan State. He was. I loved him. He was a great character. Perlis had 5 games in a row, but some kind of way he had this 152-pound long snapper. So back in the day, 152 pounds, man. I guess he was somebody's. He might have been some great gift to the university's son, but he was on the team. But he was a long snapper. But so when people got used to it, they said, "Well, we're just gonna run over him." So they would put 2 of the biggest guys over this guy. I mean, I'm just annihilated. Well, the coach. By the time I got to the game, I was about the 4th Big Ten official. Perlis was beside himself. Yeah, they can't do that. They can't do that. I said, Coach, I'll take I'll make sure that I'll look into that and see. I mean, it were clean hits, but it was the next year they changed the rule. You cannot.
Oh, because you can't stand over the long.
Over the center anymore. The same thing with in Michigan. Michigan was so adept at blocking kicks and punts. Michigan have their 2 backs. They should have been basketball players too. These guys would leap, but they didn't jump on anybody. I mean, the way they would come and leap, they just leap over and block. So they changed that too. So you could, you have to make sure you don't get leverage and things like that. I mean, most of the rules for safety and for the integrity of the game, they're really pretty good. I mean, some I'm like, I don't think they should really do, but that's another story altogether.
So we had a question.
It's the one above that.
Yeah. Oh, and he said.
Yeah, and on it. That's one of our P1s. He's on it.
No, he was asking how was it being an African American refereeing at Notre Dame?
No, one of the best things that happened to me in my officiating career was I got a chance to work at most of the historic places in the Big Ten for certain, and then going to Notre Dame. It was a thrill for me. The Notre Dame was just very, very interesting place. Matter of fact, if you look at the movie Rudy and you look at the high school practice, the only, which is not true, Joliet Catholic did have a black assistant coach, but I'm that coach in that movie that I'm saying.
Oh, you're in the movie.
Yeah. Really?
I'm the one that says, Rudy, come on, we got to get ready for that Mount Carmel caravan. So you can get a quick glimpse of me in the movie Rudy.
Oh, wow. That was early in the beginning.
It's right after, after you see him listen to Newt Rockney on the record player, and then they go straight to the Joliet Catholic practice. But I'll give you another little trivia on that. The guy who plays the coach was also in Hoosiers.
Gene Hackman?
No. His name, he played the coach at Joliet Catholic High School, but he was also in the movie Hoosier. So it's a little bitty things like that. But back to the question. The people were pretty human at Notre Dame. I had my only issue with Notre Dame was when I got through officiating is how I thought they mistreated Tyrone Willingham as coach.
Oh yeah, that was
and then also the university. You have to understand the history of that university. They have, to me, one of the most honored individuals that God has ever created, with Theodore Hesburger. If you go look at his history and his commitment to fairness and equity, he was just there's not many people like him. Yeah. But Notre Dame had an issue in terms of some of his race relations, and it did. I never got any catcalls about me being on the field or anything like that. Coletta was the coach for Purdue, and who went to Notre Dame. He became the Notre Dame coach from Purdue, and so and so it was, to me, I was honored to have that honor to referee at Notre Dame. I mean, if you're an official, it's just like an NFL official. Your goal, your ultimate goal is to maybe work a Super Bowl.
Mhm.
I mean, no matter how many playoffs you work, you ultimately want to work the Super Bowl. If you're an official, depending on the conference, because Big Ten really had the biggest crowds. Michigan was the first stadium that had over 100 people.
100,000.
And then Ohio State changed, and then now even matter of fact, the year that Wisconsin went to the Rose Bowl, I worked that game. It was against Ohio State, and that's the first time they had ever beat Ohio State. Now, the interesting thing about that game, that was the game where people rushed the field, and a couple of people got crushed against the fence.
Mm-hmm.
They used to have this picket fence at the bottom of the stadium stairs, and the football players came out and had to wave lines. And then another game, I worked Iowa at Ohio State, and they had that mass shooting at the University of Iowa. So you cannot get away from the politics of life as an official, but you can't take it to the game with you. So you have to officiate that game as fairly as you possibly can. As much as I used to hate to go to Iowa, I used to hate going to Iowa. I can say that now. They can't beat me up. They can't. Man,
we get it.
Why did you hate going to Iowa so bad?
Well, Iowa Stadium, Kinnick Stadium, is a dugout. So it's below ground. It is probably the loudest stadium in the country. I know that sounds strange because they're bigger crowds, but it's like all the noise stays over your head, right? And then you got to run up the stairs and down the stairs with you. But people start drinking at 4:30 in the morning because they have no professional team. Think about it, they have no professional team.
No protein.
So it's like when I was stationed in Nebraska before I went to Vietnam area. It's like the Huskers. They used to get their hat handed when they used to go south, and they had faster players. So the story was everybody said, "Well, we got to get some of them," but it was one of those situations that Iowa, man, it was just, I mean, the people are rabid, rabid, and and they used to throw bottles and cans on the field, and and I'm like, if I was a drinker, at least throw some scotch, I can go and sell it or give it away. I mean, throwing that cheap beer, But because
can't throw the good shit.
Hayden Fry was the coach. He had a love-hate relationship with me, but he got 3,000% from me because if I went to a place that I know I didn't like, I worked harder. I made sure that I worked harder. And I made sure I did it. I tried to do it all the time, in spite of the fact that the Big Ten didn't see it my way. But it was one of those things that that's how I grew up officiating. Most guys who grew up, especially members of them, and let me give a plug to the Metropolitan Officials Association, MOA. MOA at one time was the largest officials association in the country, African American. I wish I had that picture. I showed that picture. You had people like Art White, L.T. Bonner, what's your name used to be the principal over at John Everett, who went to the NFL. So you had some guys that came out of Rich Reels, who went to the NFL. You got some guys that came out of the Southside Avalon Park meetings on 83rd Street and refereed mega games. Danny Crawford was a member of the MOA. His brother, Eugene Crawford, did college Division I ball from the MOA. So Warren Cooley, who just passed away recently, president of the MOA at one time. Judson Mitchell, Harold Mitchell. Harold was the supervisor of the SWAC, Southern Conference for football. So the Metropolitan Officials, and we were the first. Pam Young, who became the president, we were the first officiating crew to put women on the football field as referees. And Gil Marchman, God rest his soul, Gil was the first African American referee of any major football sport. He worked the Rose Bowl, but NFL, nobody had a black referee. The Big Ten did with Gil Marchman. So I mean, there's some firsts that a lot of people, and I know I'm missing some names. It's bad when you throw out names, but the roster was full of guys who did great things and who created synergy for the sport to go on. And in some of the best games, public league games, in basketball, but you were talking about that they had the Legends meeting. Well, we had 500 people at the Clemons Hall this past Saturday, Tim Hardaway was there, Mark Aguirre. You had all the guys who went on who went on to major college ball. They were there. A lot of these, a lot of people miss an opportunity to understand how great the high school basketball and the officials who come out of the Midwest and basketball and football have made an impact. And we're talking about Forrest Harris went to the NBA. The Capers, young Jim Capers, his dad was an NBA official. Young Jim Capers in the NBA now. All these guys came out of the Chicagoland area. Most of the guys who went into the Gateway, Jesse Knighton, Irving Bond, Felton, James Felton. So, these are names that people would not necessarily know, but these are guys who toiled in high school, who worked in small colleges, worked in and it was all credit to the game. Like I said, the guys are moving so fast now. The legacy is not the same. Mm-hmm. They don't have to put it's the same thing with the athletes. I looked at the story on the kid with the Pelicans. I looked at that story.
Zion,
huh?
Zion.
Yeah. When I saw him play in college, and I said, he needs to stay another year. Now, he hasn't played in 2 years. And then if you go back to his college year, he played half of that. Boy making $40 million, $3 million, and now he's down there with 2 baby mama dramas. I just think that sometimes we've created in our sports and everything flash and not substance. And it's the same thing at all levels: coaching, officiating, even fans watching. We put too much energy in wanting to dislike something, and we put too much energy in thinking that somebody is being put in a better advantage. When if we really drill down and look at it, all I want to see is a good officiated game and a well played game. I can live with anything else. If you give me that, I can watch and say, wow. But see, it took me a long time to stop watching the officiating aspect of the game. Because I get a little critical. My daughter was a swimmer, and I used to be a swim dad. And she said, "Dad, I hear you. You need to shut up." Kick, Shannon. Do that stroke, Shannon. Dad, I'm gonna have to bar you from coming to the swim meets. But I think that's where we need to be. And it's good you guys have a show like this, because you talk about things that sometimes people don't think in terms of, or have an opportunity to make comments on. Yeah.
Well, I got one more question that I have to ask, because I lived it myself, watching, with my father being a very big Notre Dame fan. As we all know, Anthony Stewart asked, was it difficult or different reffing in Notre Dame? At that time when you were reffing, they had a black quarterback by the name of Tony Rice. Right. What was with the Catholics versus convicts? Because remember, you said they ref differently. Well, ACC, whatever, but Notre Dame was. But that was a little bit of a racist, unwritten racist deal. And I thought that, but as a referee, were you expected to ref that differently, or no? You just have to go and referee the way you see. You can't hear that. You can't hear the you don't hear that. You can't hear that. You can't buy it. That has nothing to do with what's being played on the plays on the field. As an official, that's what you have to concentrate on. But I can tell you a funny Notre Dame story. But I'm going with this because it was funny, because Notre Dame had a black quarterback, and Lou Holtz won a national championship with that black quarterback. Man, I've seen teams that have black quarterbacks and black running backs, and
people have called them out of their names on their own team. So that's a whole nother story. Okay, that's the Friars hate the Jesuits, and everybody says, but those are the brothers from Saint so and so. Man, them guys. I had a game in St. Rita one time, man. Mendel and St. Rita, they got to fighting out there, man.
Mendel close.
You thought you was at a game fight, man.
Woo!
You thought you was at a game fight. I mean, and it was the old St. Rita field, So
yeah,
where they shot Rudy, in high school thing at Rudy. Man, the field got muddy, man, and the police was falling out in the mud. I lost a shoe. You trying to break it up, man. I'm like, man, what were they fighting about? And then somebody said, well, this order, these brothers of this order don't like the brothers of that order. I said, but but they were, it was okay. They were just throwing barbs at each other. Said somebody made the mistake and pushed one of the players, man. It was like it just broke loose. I said, wow. But I got a Notre Dame funny story for you. So I'm working a Notre Dame game, right? And so they're bringing in Notre Dame is winning, so they're bringing in different quarterbacks, right? I'm trying to think of who was I don't know if it was Theismann, but it was one of the and Curb Herbstreit was a quarterback when I was doing Ohio State.
Ohio State, right?
That's a funny thing. But I'm in Notre Dame game, and so I'm working on my pencil. I got the ball. I'm over the ball, so I'm writing stuff down. Well, Chris Zorich, who I love, who played at Notre Dame, he went to CVS. I love me some Chris Zorich, outstanding guy. After the game, I got a chance to meet his mom, salt of the earth. Chris is a gentleman. If you got a chance to I know he has his own podcast, but I suggest you bring him on. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Reeve Sori. Reeve Sori has been sick, and he's doing well. But this weekend will be Reeve Sori's 70th birthday. Wow. Please shout out and give him all that honor. Reeve's another great guy, good friend of mine.
Definitely.
But back to this Notre Dame story. So I'm writing down, and so they called in one quarterback, and he plays the series, and then he walks out. And then they said, and now entering the game, Kevin McDougal. So I'm just sitting writing down. And then the referee blows the ready, so we can get ready. So I put my little thing away that I'm writing down the time, the scores, and all that, put in my pocket. And then I look up. Kevin McDougal was a black guy.
He was black, yeah. And number 14, 12 or 14.
I'm like, Kevin McDougal? Man, what happened to Willie Smith? I chuckled, man. I had to laugh within myself. It was like, but those are some of the moments in sports that you live and you're happy. I got a few where I'm in Wisconsin and I went the wrong, I stepped the wrong way and I got rid of it. And of course they put that on TV with me picking up my hat and dusting myself off, and then of course that's when they say your name. No, don't do it. But that's the great part about it. I would, even with me having to to fight for my reputation in that situation, but I would encourage anyone who wants to get into officiating. They should do it. And I tell the people who your fans, don't be so hard on the officials, but look at it from the standpoint of two standpoints. Was the official in the position to make the call? Now, I would say I would have more damage against that official if he made the call and he was not in the spot, because there are places that you're supposed to be. So I'm harder on that than the call itself, unless it's something that I think was so egregious, like that hit that was pass interference all day long. I mean, so you can. I mean, even if that was my brother, and my mama told me take care of my brother, don't call it, I still would have to call it.
You would have to call that.
I love my mama, so don't do that. That's your brother. Don't call that call, mama. He was raggedy. he was a gangster. I had to call that, So those are the things as a fan, and I'm a fan a lot of ways. But I look at officiating and I see how officiating can be better. I think more should be poured into officiating. I think we take the easy way out. You know, it's not about paying officials more money, although I think they're underpaid as it is. I mean, you know, because
it's a hard job.
When you think when you think in terms of how much coaches are making, how much revenue is coming to the game, how much players are making, and then the person who is out there facilitating. I use that word, facilitating the game so the game can be played and come to a good conclusion for the winner. I'm not saying a logical conclusion, but a good conclusion for the winner. Because you know, any given Sunday, and somebody can upset somebody. But if you can walk away and you're the official, and the only thing they can say, well, they could have called. I think they could have called more holding. I'll live with that. You know, because did it impact the game? Did my call or my lack of a call did it impact because it does? T, you were very right. Depending on when that call is and how it's done, it can change the complexion of the game. It doesn't necessarily cause, because how many times did that same receiver that got that call was missed? How many times did he drop the ball? Wide open. So I look at those kind of things too. I mean, I'm very honest about that, and I think, like, I'm a Bear. Listen, I'm a Bear fan so deep. I go back to Willie Gallimore, Rick Caceres, Benny McRae, to me was one of the best defensive backs that the Bears ever had. I mean, he running down Roosevelt, what was Roosevelt's last name? Roosevelt Taylor, and then Willie Gallimore, he was a great running back, and he and John Farrington were on their way back to Rensselaer. In the little Volkswagen that turned over and killed them both.
That's all right. I remember
he was going to have a great, and I love me some Rick Caceres. I remember the quarterback controversies back then, John Wade versus Rudy Bukic, So, I love my Chicago Bears. I suffered through some of the coaches that they've had. I really do. I really give the new coach a chance.
Well, expound on that, because we want to know what you think about them now.
Well, there were moments last year where I thought he had his head stuck up his butt. That's being kind. That's being
very kind.
I think what it was, a little bit more of being in a little bit over his head his first year. I still, Luke Getsy, the jury's out with me on him in terms of the quarterback. There's some guys I like, Pep Hamilton, people out there who I thought would be much better at nurturing this quarterback. Okay, but
Jim Caldwell.
Oh yeah. Well, Caldwell. I worked one of his first games when he was at Wake Forest. He used to be the head coach.
He was the head coach at Wake Forest before
Wake Forest. Yep. So they came to Michigan. So I just think that he needs to have more meetings with his coaches and have a more direction. Because when they had to play, you got half a minute left and you playing it safe, so you can go to the locker room down 3. I rather for you throw 15 interceptions in that 30 seconds
and never use the timeout.
Right, and to play that safe. You can't do that. You can, and I think hopefully he'll learn that. Yeah, and hopefully his assistants will speak up. I think now that Justin Field is who he is, and he's getting some guys around him. I hope Claiborne, that's his name from Notre Dame.
Claypool,
yeah.
Never should have got him, but I hope that he learned something. But I think with Moore and the guys who are in there should be do well.
So that's interesting. You said, Clem, we never should have got him.
No.
Oh.
Because it was a bit of a head case.
How much time you got?
Well, I got time. But
okay, we need to go to a commercial, but I want you to, if you have time.
I got time.
So do you drink beer, Rap?
No, I don't drink it all.
He said you don't drink it all.
Okay. Well,
but I do.
You might want to close your eyes on this commercial there.
No. Listen. I do commercials too. So I'm not above looking at a commercial. I had a commercial that I ran for Esurance. The guy says, the next time you rent a DVD, don't worry about rewinding it. let the next guy do it. That was the e-shirts commercial. So that ran for a long time.
Okay.
I think I remember that too. You was a little less salt and pepper. I remember that.
This is
if you look at U.S. Marshals, and
Tommy Lee Jones.
And Tommy, yeah. Well, you know when Wesley went to the cigar store to get the money.
I don't remember that.
Remember when Wesley was on the run and they were chasing him, and he went to the cigar store. The guy gave him the money and the keys, and he went to New York from there. Well, I'm the cigar store owner. Say, I'll catch the rest on CNN. I've gone as far as I'm prepared to go, and then,
that was towards like the third part of the movie.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm basically almost at the beginning setting it up for when he escapes.
Okay.
Remember when he escaped and a guy from the cemetery and he jumped on top of that train. My scene.
I remember jumping the train. Right.
So remember he made it to Chicago. He made it to New York. It was really Chicago. He made it to New York and he went to the cigar store to see the guy for the money and stuff.
I don't remember the store, but I remember
and then barbershop. I'm the barbershop one. I'm the bank manager.
Barbershop too.
I'm the bank manager.
Oh,
really?
If you don't pay the taxes, you're gonna lose the shop. So I'm in the barbershop.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Hey, look, we're gonna go to this commercial because I gotta pee.
No, do your thing, man.
And Frank has to fix his connection or something.
Wash your hands. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna put him on.
No, better yet, let us all put our mask on until he gets come back.
Put your eye out.
I ain't about.
Okay, play the commercial.
Am I? I guess I'll play the commercial. He's just gonna up and just walk out.
Play the long one, Frank.
I got you. I'll play the long one. Don't touch it, Terrence.
Don't touch it.
How you tell
Don't you touch it.
Listen.
Don't you touch it.
There was a time when high standards prevailed, when excellent craftsmanship was displayed and treated with the utmost importance. Acquire the crisp, refreshing taste of Moore's Beer. Moore's Beer. Raise your standards.
Listen, shout out to my man Terrence from Chicago's Clubhouse Podcast, from the Moore's Brewing Company here in Chicago, Illinois. All right, we got bros out here putting out this for the Moors. It's tasty. I didn't even have to come on here lying about this. All right, this tastes like what I like when I drink a beer. I don't drink a beer often because I'm too big and I need to stay off of carbonated drinks. But this is the carbonated drink you need to open up and crack and take a sip. All right, if you want to come out of the dark ages, be educated. All right, get you some of this Moore's brew right here. It's definitely tasty. You can get it in Kimbark and High Park.
Whoa. I thought we were a team. Where's mines? And when are we getting in Tempe, Arizona?
I guess we're going to have to find out, man. But everybody out there, for here from Chicago, go to Kimbark and pick you up some Moore's.
Moore's Beer.
That timing. Right when he gets back.
Your standards. Moore's Beer can be found now, not only at your local Benny's, forthcoming, Frank, but also at your participating Whole Foods. Moore's Beer is on the rise, they on the run, and they coming to a town near you. Raise your standards. Drink up.
Also,
if you
take a vacation in New York, they now have Moore's Beer in New York at Whole Foods. So Moore's Beer is definitely stepping up, man.
And then if I was doing a commercial, I would say, I don't drink beer, but if I was a beer drinker, it would be Moore's Beer.
Raise.
I got to show you this real quick. Let's see. Wait a minute.
That way. Yep.
There we go.
That was Billy Worth in a movie called. No, the sound is kind of low, but I just wanted to show you a little of that. But
what was that from?
It was a movie I co-starred in called The Fence. It was an independent film with Billy Worth. Nice. Yeah.
Oh, but wow. So tell us some of your before we get all into the films, tell us about if you had any interaction with Kevin Warren while you were repping in the Big Ten?
Well, he was only there for 1 year.
Right.
But I give him kudos. I sent him a note saying I was proud of the fact that he became the commissioner of the Big Ten, and he did something that nobody ever tried to do. He put 7 African American people, and I think it was 1 woman on that game, on a major D1 game. Unprecedented. For a while, the NBA, a lot of people used to talk about, the NBA. I took my hat off to the NBA for one reason only, if nothing else. They were the only sports league that had all black officials on one game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was only 3, but if you go back, they were the first to do that. Kevin Warren, the Big Ten was the leader because we had 3. We had the first black referee, and then we had, in my crew, we had each crew 1 year had an African American on every crew, 6 crews, and then 1 crew had 2. And then the next year, 2 crews had 2 officials, and African American on every other crew. Of course, things have changed since then, but that was kind of an achievable goal to do that. Now, I worked what was the umpire position, and we had, and in one game, in the Big Ten, I worked with Gil Marchman, black referee, black umpire, and Richard Reel was the back judge. Usually, they would call that
the middle.
They called that the thinking positions.
Yep.
Okay, and we would. It was like when I was going to high school, you could not be a left halfback. There was always the little white guy. It didn't matter if he had speed, but even more so
How
if
he can think.
Yeah, more so if he had blonde hair and blue eyes. But our coach, who played Guido Marchetti and Mindu Jacobs, Guido played at Drake. He came in and said, "No, we don't play it that way. If you're the athlete and you got the skills, I'm gonna put you where you play." And he did. It took a long time. Now I mean, you got some schools just because Beloit got a black ball player on the ball team, don't play him because he's horrible. Can't even dribble. I mean, but they had to have one. So I mean, now that's when you talk about affirmative action goes wrong. I mean, because you got a lot of kids in the neighborhood. They might, Pookie might not be the guy you want on your campus, but give Pookie a chance because he'll be a hell of a ball player for you.
Pookie,
so
can play ball.
So I think the sports has always been where the possibility for betterment of equality and engagement and inclusion has always been. I think people have taken it a different way because the politics have morphed it into some strange stuff. It baffles me how you take away women's rights in Texas and you cheer, and then you take away some human rights in Texas and you cheer, and you got all these athletes that are making money for you. Now, the politics is your politics, but I just don't see that as, and that was the, when you asked me about Notre Dame, that was always my thing about Notre Dame. They did recruit a few. It didn't happen until later where they started saying, we got to get more inclusive and get more athletes, because the slap was the guys didn't have the grades. One of the first public league guys that played at Notre Dame, he went to Julian, and he had great grades in basketball. Northwestern had Dan Davis, and Eugene Ford went up to Northwestern. Those guys came out of Crane High School. So you have to understand the inroads. I don't understand why why you in Illinois and now you're still not recruiting kids.
You don't recruit Chicago.
Yeah, I don't understand that. It just baffles the hell of me. I don't like the Illinois coach as a coach. He's not a good game coach. He loses it. He screams. He walks up and down and screams. He's not developing players. So that's just my opinion as an Illinois fan when I watch games. But I just think that we need. I just think that we need to have more input and more conversation. You know, guys like you can spearhead some of that and bring those kind of questions up where people need to come and answer them. You know, how come we're not recruiting the public league like we used to? How come we're not putting the emphasis in Chicago? When I used to volunteer at schools, I used to bring people in from everywhere to come volunteer, tutor, and talk to kids, career days. You know, it's just got to be even more than just bouncing the basketball. We got to open up. I have a good friend, Mark Lowry. He's a golfer. And Mark convinced me to play golf. I'm horrible. I can, T's dad, he loved the game. But Mark taught me the game. And all you got to do, if you got someplace that hasn't had rain in 3 weeks, give me a golf ball and a golf club, and I'll find water. I'll hit off the tee and it'll hit water. I'll find water in the desert. That's how bad I am. But that's okay. But you got guys like him who he was working for the first tee. But we need to increase the knowledge of other sports. You know, I have a little nephew who played lacrosse. You know, a lot of people forget that Jim Brown was an All-American lacrosse player.
All-American.
American lacrosse player. You talk about Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson was an All-American in 3 sports. So, you know.
Baseball, basketball, and
right.
track.
Yeah, basketball and track, right. You know, and baseball, you know. So, you know, some of the things that we need to get back into, you know, and then we gotta have sessions with parents. Don't be such buttholes. You know, no, seriously.
No, for real. Because that's part of the problem.
Let me tell you something. We had we had a league. The MOA refereed a league. It was out in the south suburbs, and it was pee-wee football. And in the parents, everybody talking about this is the worst officiating we've ever seen. Where they get these guys from? And so us senior guys at the time, we were working in the CCIW. We were working college ball. So we said, well, we're going to give our Saturday. We don't have any game Saturday, and we don't have any game Sunday. We're going to go out there and we're going to work with the young guys. We're going to have on every crew, that 4-man crew, 2 guys are going to be college level officials working the game. Now, when you work a college level, you let the rules come from the guys who work in that league. You know, because you don't want to confuse your rules. You know, if the NFL guys go down and help out, he's not going to mess with the rules because his mind is always on the NFL or the college. So we were refereeing the games, right? We were refereeing the games, and you know, and the kids are playing, you know, and you hear from the sidelines, these guys are worse than the other guys, you know. And, I mean, the parents, you know, they crucifying because little Johnny's not getting the touch, or he fumbles the ball, right? You know, but it's the official's fault. You know, Johnny is not needed. You know, so you know, after one of the games, I just had to go over. I mean, I think I worked a Big Ten game, but that's Saturday. But I came out to help the officials, that you know, to understand what was going on and help develop young officials. And so finally, I said, "Can I talk to you? You know, you fathers?" And I got them in a little group. It was about 20 of them. I said, what is the concern that you have with the officiating? Well, so I said, no, let's not talk about it. Make it personal. What rule did they misapply? Were they out of position? Did they come ready? Did they wear their uniforms? I mean, I want to get the aesthetics out there. And then I said, and you know, a couple of you guys said I was the worst official you ever saw. And they said, you know, I said, in your eyes, I might be. I said, but do you know what game I had yesterday? And they said, what, a high school game? I said, no, national televised game. Did you see the Michigan State game? Well, yeah, I was the umpire on that game. And I made sure to come out here today for your league. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of commitment that the MOA has to service your kids. But we don't have that anymore because we don't put it to test. And sometimes we have to hold young people's feet to the fire. You know, I saw a game once where a kid went down, he stole the ball, and the dad's up in the stands. And the kid goes down on the floor and he does a basic layup. And it goes in. That's right. Show him who you are. Tell him what you're working with. That was a layup, Dad. My old 77-year-old body can do a layup like that if I can break away far enough. But that's what we're fighting against. I mean, the culture of the culture of the sports. We have to bring it back to human thought processes, and then we have to give quarter to kids who are not, I mean, I'm with people. I don't believe in having everybody participate at a certain level, but I used to do biddy basketball.
Mhm.
Biddy basketball, which I love, but here's what I loved about biddy basketball. If you had 12 people on your team, every one of your kids have to play 3 minutes, right? So that means you had to coach. So if every one of your kids did not play 3 minutes, you lose the game. So coaching, you had to make that. So if I got Frank, my best shooter, I'm not gonna let him waste his. I mean, he could play more games, but I'm not gonna just waste his 3 minutes in the first quarter. I'm gonna put Lorenzo in there, get his 3 minutes out the way. Put T in there, get 3 minutes out the way, and then by the time I'm at the third quarter and the fourth quarter, I'm coaching. I'll save a minute because T is a good free throw shooter. I mean, he's a horrible dribbler. We just make sure we give him the ball and say, don't walk. Just now you can walk to the basket and get hit, but and get free throws. But back then, you just dribble the ball one time and let him hit you.
Or not get hit and you'll still get free throws.
Yeah, there you go. But that's where we are. So, and that's what we need to do.
So, Ref Clem, before we let you go, let me ask you, how do referees get evaluated?
Well, in football and in the NFL and everywhere, they had technical advisors in the Big Ten. I wasn't their favorite, but it was okay. A couple of guys, I came in and they said I took their position, so they stayed on as technical advisors. So my ratings was always low with them. But now they do. You have technical advisors, and then you have film review. But that's with basketball now, it's instantaneous because they have because it's inside the technology, and they can make an instant judgment and they can review it. You have a panel in New York or wherever, and they make a decision, and boom, boom, there you are. But
so they review your calls.
They review the call, and if they misapply the rule, because if you notice, sometimes in some games, there was a game the other day where they were looking for a foul that wasn't there. However, they got the other part of it right, but because the rules stipulated something different, they removed the foul, but they did penalize the team because they misapplied an application. But that was fair because some things you can't review.
Right, they were looking for one thing, and in that process,
right. Now, under the review process, if you notice something like even if LeBron traveled, if that wasn't a call, you can't go back and change it. Right. You can't go back and change it. So that's why the technical aspect of it, and then you have weekly meetings. NFL does it. Colleges do it. And then now with the internet and Zoom, and you can sit back and you go back and you look at. I've got films from downstairs from back in the old days when we used to do that 16 millimeter and go back and look at the film and they slow motion. And now it's technology, man. Tick, 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 tick. They can go back. I mean, it's really kind of instant replay is great and it's a curse all at the same time. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm out there and I'm working my butt off and I've done everything I'm supposed to do, be in position, I'm applying the rule properly, and then now all of a sudden I'm being second guessed. Now, somebody throws a flag, they waste a whole lot of time to say that, yeah, you were correct. I'm okay with that if I'm coming out being correct, but it delays the game and it changes the concept. And then sometimes I think guys get reluctant to make a call if it's not too, if it doesn't, is it mamby-pamby? Well, I'm of the nature, if you called it with 5 minutes in the beginning of the game, you got to call it 5 minutes at the end. Yeah. You got to be consistent. That's the biggest thing about officiating, be consistent.
But that's why I have a problem with, especially with the NBA, being the last 2 minutes is basically the review. But in the NFL, like, you can be overturned in a second because New York called in and Gene Tessitore says, no, this was wrong or whatever. And you know what I'm saying? There's too many moving parts because now, like you stated about the second guessing, but on things that are very egregious and game altering, there is no call.
Right. Well, that's something that has to be worked on, because if you remember that one game when Tennessee Titans could have gone, and the guy reached for the goal line and the ball hit the goal line, but they said his knee was out.
That was the Super Bowl Titans versus the Rams.
Right. So I mean, basically they got it right, but it took instant replay and tick 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 tick. I mean, they I don't know, and then I don't know what's the penalty for a guy being egregious. In the Big Ten, they used to suspend guys. Yeah, if there was something that was, I mean, matter of fact, the game that the Michigan State game where Desmond Howard got tackled in the end zone, and they could have won the game, even though the ball hit him, and it hit the crew. That crew got suspended because my crew moved into Michigan and worked the game the next. They changed our schedule and we worked in there. So there are penalties, and there's some people who will pull the plug, but a lot of guys, depending on who the official is too now. Mm-hmm. If you're reluctant, if the guy, if it's an Ed Hockley, he might not get second guessed. I'm not saying he shouldn't or he should, but I'm just saying I think they'll give him more leeway than a Lorenzo Clemons, who's only been at the refs, been with refs at 2 years.
Gotcha.
So that's the inconsistency.
So the acting, let's speak on that for a second.
Okay.
What famous movies have you been in?
Man, you didn't like the ones I said? They were pretty famous. Raw Deal.
Rudy, and U.S. Marshals are very famous.
U.S. Marshals
Rudy was.
Rudy, yeah.
No, I just watched U.S. Marshals like 2 days ago.
But if
Rudy is famous.
U.S. Marshals was famous.
If you Google my name, all that stuff will come up.
Okay.
Rudy is super famous.
IMDb. Well, let me put it to you this way: some roles were decent and got co-starred. Some roles were very small. You had to catch me, but when my name went on the credits, I still get one of them checks when they come in. It might be 89 cents. Because the Forest showing, but it's enough to get a hamburger. But they send me the residual checks on a regular basis, man. So I ain't mad at it. I'm not mad about it. But it was something. It was a little side like something I wanted to do.
That's every time the show airs, no matter the station.
Well, yeah, in rerun and foreign shows, yeah, it's a percentage of what you get, originally get paid, and then they calculate it and they send you a check.
Nice.
Like I said, it might be 89 cents, but it's my 89 cents.
Yeah, you got me with the U.S. Marshal one. You were the banker in U.S. Marshals, right? Okay, I just searched it. I was like, oh yeah, I do.
Hey, Ralph, has anyone ever compared you to Ossie Davis? Because you speak and you conduct yourself just like Ossie Davis would.
But let me tell you something. Ossie Davis had two things going that I love. He was a great actor. And he had Ruby D.
Yeah, Ruby D.
Man, I was in love with me some Ruby D.
Even
when she was 90, she did look good. But Ossie, see, you know what? There's a movie I want you guys to write down. Mm-hmm. You can watch it on YouTube. There's a guy by the name of Juano Hernandez. He's a black actor. His name is Juano Hernandez. But it's called Intruder in the Dust. Intruder in the Dust. You can watch it on YouTube. That is the essence of an actor. It's about he was being accused of killing a white guy in the South. But look at that movie.
One of those.
No, but look at that movie and look at his acting and look at the purpose behind everything. But I look at movies that way too, because the not the Maltese Falcon, Petrified Force, Humphrey Bogart played Duke Mantee. A lot of people look at that movie and they're like, "Oh, I love Humphrey Bogart," and this and Leslie Howard. But there was a scene that goes unnoticed by a lot of people, but not me. They had two black guys. One guy played the gangster that was Humphrey Bogart's buddy as the gangster. and he was not subservient, and he was not, he was not Mantan Moreland kind of guy. And even the butler, the chauffeur was black. And they had a moment where they had a scene with them having a conversation, and basically the gangster said, "Man, the chauffeur said, 'Yes, sir, Mr. Chisholm.' And then the gangster said, 'Man, you don't have to say yes, sir, Mr. Chisholm here, man. Did they tell you we free?' But it's like little bitty noise. But that if you go back and think, they didn't have to do that in the movie, because the movie was about Humphrey Bogart and his gangster life and in the desert in Arizona. So that's what I look for now, and I've always looked for in movies. I look for stuff that's got hidden meaning. There's a movie called Cairo with Ethel Waters, and she plays the maid, but she's not a maid. So those are the things I look at.
Are you still active?
Yeah, I'm basically retired in a sense, but I still do that. I'm writing scripts now. And
really?
Yeah, I've got two things I can share with you. One is I'm putting a documentary together, and it's called Bigger Than Motown, and I'm writing on it now. And it's about a Chicago music scene, black music scene, from 1950 to 1980. Do you realize all the acts that came out of Chicago, all the producers that came out of Chicago, Minnie Riperton, you had some outstanding. And now I'm getting ready to smack you with some other news. I had a band called the Mandels, and we had records out, and we used to do shows. We did shows with a group called the Love Lights. We were their backup band. We did Garland Green. We did shows with the Temptations, the Impressions.
Wow.
And there's a book out called Soul Train on TV that was written by Chris Lehman. Chapter 2 is about my group.
Wow.
Because Soul Train started in Chicago. And
yeah,
then
I knew that.
It was Board of Trade building downtown on Jackson, and then it moved out and became big. But there were clubs like New York and other places. New York had some designated places. It had the Apollo. We had our place here. But there were small clubs. There was clubs like Guys and Dolls, Green, and some of the old heads would know what I'm talking about. The Green Bunny, Barbara's Peppermint Lounge on the West Side, Purcell Hall, the Safari Room, Clemons Club. Yeah, all these. But now here's the deal: all these big name actors and musicians, they played these joints. It was not uncommon to see Jackie Wilson on 69th and Austin. That was back in the day. They had a place called Skyway Lounge. All these clubs, the Shylights, the Dales, some of these groups.
That's kind of like what Lloyd Pierce was promoting back in the day.
Right. So
when he was the first black owner of a club in New York, right?
Right. So some of these guys that have gone on to glory, matter of fact, Chris Arnold, he was singing with the Temptation Review. He's from Chicago. Velma Jean Terrell. You ever hear that name?
I have.
Yeah,
I definitely.
She went by the name of Jean Terrell. She took Diana Ross' place for the Supremes. She went to high school with me. She's from Chicago. See, so you got people like that. You got Bobby Hutton, who had a song out in the 60s and 70s.
Bobby Hutton
got a stepping song.
He got a step 20 years later. Bobby kills it 20 years later. So
20 years later.
Yeah.
I know that song.
I was walking down Michigan Avenue. I saw you, that's Bobby Hutton. So, and then of course, Commissioner Jerry Butler, and his brother, Billy Butler had a song out. So you had a guy, you had Paul Serrano Studio, PS Studio. The Beatles even recorded that. That was on Cermak Road, right just east of Michigan. And then Record Road, when they talk about, people talk about Checker and Chess, but you had VJ was a black owned, the Impressions, Curtis Mayfield, Everybody's Poet, Leroy Hutton. Matter of fact, Keith Barrow, who's the late Reverend Willie Barrow from Push, her son had a song out, and I know you know this song. You want to be loved. You want to be loved. Just like this. It's a stepper song, but I'm just saying,
really?
From Chicago.
I'm going to look it up.
Oh, I'm telling you, man, it's so much history that gets missed. You know, and that's what I want to bring some of that up. Paymoon Rami, who's another friend of mine, he wrote a book, and he's organizing this Saturday at the Southside Library on 45th in Michigan. He's got a bunch of Black authors who are going to bring their books, and they have to make sure they have the ISB number, and they have copyright and everything, and they're going to take a picture. Years ago in the 30s and 40s, they had all the jazz musicians, and it was called a Gray Flat in Harlem. It's a great picture. Dizzy Gillespie, all the legends, and they were taking a picture on those stairs. And Paymoon is artistic director. He's also one of the guys that helped Robert Townsend in his career. He's also he produced a movie with Danny Glover about Africa. And his wife, Masiko Meyer, wonderful actress and a director. So we've got so much talent, man. There's artists, like Candace Hunter, who does artwork. I mean, the richness of what we were doing in Chicago, the arts we need to recapture some of that. The Southside Arts Center was one of it. And then Harry Lennox is going to be doing a project here. Juan did a wonderful thing. So there's so many great people here, man. And then you guys, I imagine, and what I'd like to see this podcast blow up even more. And and the things that you talk about sports, and bring some sanity, to the discussion. It's not, it's not you browbeating everybody. And I let me say this to you from the standpoint of being an old ref. I appreciate your approach of asking me questions about stuff that you're pissed off about. So it's like it could be like, how can you be so done with the rest of the guys? It could be that flavor. So you protected them stripes. No, I like to bring some sincerity and sensibility to it. Commonality of purpose.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome, because there's a lot of like nuances that we don't know. Like we look at it from either a fan or former players.
Right. And sometimes the former players can be the worst ones.
I know it's the worst. I know it's the worst one for me.
Yeah. Now, where did you play?
I actually played out south, and then I walked on 1 year at Michigan State.
Okay. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. See, so what happens all the time. Don't get me wrong. I scream at the TV too. I'm like, how could you miss that? Or I'll say that was a foul. And they'll do the replay, and then I calm down because I know it was right. But I'm still pissed off. Yeah. I'm still pissed off because they didn't call it, because I wanted that team to win. I'm a fan now. I don't have to worry about who wins and who doesn't win.
Right.
When I just ref the game, I didn't care. I just wanted to make sure we left the game with our sweat on the field, and that we did the best job we knew how. And hopefully, Richard is a little, Richard, hopefully you get a chance to get him on. Danny Crawford's another guy. Gene Crawford's another guy. Ruben Norris.
NBA, right? Danny
Crawford.
Eugene Crawford.
Eugene Crawford did. Yeah. Eugene Crawford did the Big Ten and Division I. There's a guy by the name of Ruben Norris. I hope you guys bring him on. Ruben is about 89 years old.
Oh my God, that would be great.
He's a spark plug. He is kind of like the godfather of official. He used to do all kind of. He groomed a lot of officials. But text me, T, and I'll put you in touch with him. But he'll be a great guy to have on.
Awesome.
And then one day, have more people come on and talk about their experiences as a member of the MOA. There were three major.
Oh, that's the other question I wanted to ask you. Is the MOA still active?
Yes, they're not. They're not as prominent in it, but they still do a lot of the officiating for public schools and women's basketball. Like I said, Pam Young was one of the female officials and one of the presidents of the MOA. So you got, but you got some good history and guys. You got some guys who going on, but but they could tell you some stories, man. They were pioneers in the Big Ten. They broke the barriers.
I would really like to talk to some
not a barrier breaker, but except for I was one of the first black guys in the gateway. So I mean, I'm proud of that. But see, I've always liked being the first, but I've never liked being the only. And I've always worked hard out not to make sure that I was not only not the only, but the last.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be the first and the last. Be fair to the other guys who are coming up. But my message to them: be prepared for the opportunity. So when they call you, you have it down. I've done that in everything: law enforcement, teaching, education, acting. I go prepared. There's nothing preparedness you cannot mistake. They might not like you. I've gone places and I've auditioned and everybody was like, "Wow, you should get an Oscar." You did, and then I watched the movie on TV or at the theater, and they have a woman playing the role. So I mean, it's just a choice of what they do. But I came prepared because sometimes I would talk to somebody and they said, "Man, they had your picture on the wall. I was certain they were going to hire you." I mean, that's no consolation because I'm not going to get that residual check. but I'm just saying that's how we have to go into this. But see, sometimes now guys move so quickly and they get opportunity, they burn out. And you said, well, what happened to Joe Smith? He had 3 years in the NBA and he was good. But he burned out. He was not prepared. And there's a process. When we used to go to the games, I used to wear a suit going and a suit coming because they know who you were. I mean, it'd be easy to go in there, with a baseball cap, my jogging suit. No. Now, if I was going on a plane, I want to be a little more comfortable, I'll change at the airport in the jogging suit or something like that. But going in and out of that stadium or going in and out of that Coliseum or going in and out of that gymnasium, they're gonna see the professionals are going in, the professionals are coming out. And that's something that young people need to hear and emulate. So thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate it.
And I hope I'll be able to answer some of the questions for you.
Yes, you did. You did. You did.
Well, thank you.
And we appreciate your time and we appreciate having you on. And hopefully we'll be able to get connected to some of those people that you mentioned.
Oh no, and I hope you get them because next year when they have that Legends gathering, because ABC was there and they covered it. 500 guys, man, who played high school basketball and college basketball and pro ball, are all from the Chicagoland area. I mean that's phenomenal, and just to talk to them. Tim Hardaway.
Tim Hardaway.
He came up and I tell you, a lot of people don't. I'll tell people Tim Hardaway was better than Isaiah Thomas. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but he was. He was.
Okay, that's another show. So
that's a whole other show, right?
Now, let me also lay another one on you. There was a kid that was on the West Side named James Copeland. And some of the old heads remember him. James Copeland was better than Isaiah Thomas.
Okay.
James Copeland went to Gordon Tech, and Isaiah, of course, went out to St. Joseph's.
St. Joe's,
and then went to Indiana. So his star moved a little differently. But Tim Hardaway, in terms of hard-nosed, and I love Isaiah. His nickname is Tuss. I went to school.
They call Lil Tuss. Yeah.
I went to school with his sis. I loved his mom. I loved her dearly. But he became a stronger ball player until he played for the Pistons and became a jerk. But I love him. Still love him. No, but I still love him because I was a Bulls fan. And it hurt my heart to see.
They say his older brother was better than him technically.
Oh yeah, and but to see a young guy who I watched grow up and who's an outstanding ball player get mean at my Bulls, I'm like, don't do that, man. But then there's like a guy like Leonard Perry. If you go back and look at some of the basketball from the Red West, you got a guy like Leonard Perry, and then Marshall had Jakes, Shaky Jakes, they called him, Leonard Perry, Marshall had Pitts and Franklin. I mean, you got some historic guys. There's a guy who worked with me who was a sheriff, and I got to say his name, Robert Dillard. Robert Dillard was an outstanding ball player. There's a guy that went to
Skip Dillard's brother?
No. Robert Dillard, no, he was, they were no relation.
Okay, because that Dillard name is pretty prominent in Chicago.
There's some guys I played with at Farragut High School. I was in football, I never played basketball. A guy by the name of Ron Dunlap and Roger Blaylock. Roger Blaylock played at Purdue. He became an assistant coach at Purdue. They were the team that beat UCLA. The Purdue team that beat UCLA. That was Roger Blaylock's team. Ron Dunlap, who was my friend from 4th grade, he passed away. We were friends for 64 years. Ron Dunlap played at the University of Illinois. Remember back in the 60s, they said the guys were part of a slush fund, and they penalized the athletes and not the coaches. Mm-hmm. Well, Ron had a history. He got drafted with the Bulls in '68. Ron also played for the Israeli team. Really? So yeah, and his grandson now is Pat Dunlap's son, Bryce. Bryce Hurd. Know that name. Bryce is number 15 in the country, and he plays Montvale. He's a junior in high school. He plays Montvale in Florida. Outstanding, and he's a good kid. So we got kids like that. That's legacy. But you got kids who are good kids. And let me say this, and I know I get talking, but we who love sports have to fight for the rightness in sports. I wrote a piece. It was in Hermine Harmon published it for me in Indigo, and she's such a wonderful sweetheart. Mm-hmm. They did I wrote about the Jackie Robinson team, and I talked about how great that story was, because here was some young African-American boys playing baseball, and fathers were involved, mm-hmm. right? And they played by the rules that were given to them, and they snatched it away because the story was too good. That's when people like us have to protect those stories. Now, I understand that they had some kind of restitution later on, but they didn't do any good to kill the story. It captured. And see, our kids need to see more of that, and less of people big wilding out and thinking that if I'm loud and boisterous and I push at you or I curse you out on the floor,
I'm relevant.
I'm an influencer. I'm still trying to figure out what that word is, but I'm just saying that's where sports has to find its humanity. If I do anything in life, that's what I preach. Let's find the humanity back in sports. There's some great stories out there where people, I had a chance when I came out of the service to try out for some teams in football, but that wasn't my life. I spent 4 years in the service, Air Force, Southeast Asia, came back. I wanted to be a teacher, and I was for 4 years before I went in law enforcement. So, there are other things that kids can do. I talked to them about the movie business. Everybody can be in front of the camera, but man, there's so many. One of the property masters was a black guy from Chicago. You've got writers and people like Pay Moon. You got people.
You talking about behind the scene
and creative. I mean, you've got some assistant directors and guys and writers. Nambia Kelly has been writing stage plays. She's very talented. Chuck Smith, that's a name in theater. He's gonna be doing August Wilson play at the Goodman. He's the resident director at the Goodman. Chuck Smith. I did a play called Nevis Mountain Dew. He was the director there. Chuck Smith is a legend. And people don't even know. That this guy, they go see the plays and they don't. Me and my wife just went to see the play Saturday, the Lloyd Price story.
Lloyd Price, right? That's
at the Studebaker Theater. Go see it.
Yeah,
everybody
go
see it. It's a musical.
Oh, Lordy Miss Claudia.
Man, the Lordy Miss Claudia. The talent, the dancers, the singing, superb. The costumes, the showmanship. The old Studebaker. I remember. I would date myself. In the late 50s, I went down there to see Tom Sawyer. So what we gonna do, Mr. Hook? I mean, but but that was theater then. You're like, oh man, Jim, gee, we's free, Jim, we's free. Nah, okay. Don't let me start. That's another show, another story too.
Yeah, we appreciate your time, man, and we gonna get into some Bears talk real quick.
Okay.
But we definitely are delighted that you took the time to holler at us, and we gotta have you back.
Well, anytime.
We gotta have you back.
Thank all of you.
Especially this season, if we see some bad calls, we need to talk to a ref. We gonna holler at you.
I'll give you my honest opinion.
Okay.
And I got to because Brother Stewart already done called me out. He said, that's
holding. Be on you.
Brother Stewart already called me out. He said, that's holding. So
we'll have those highlights ready. We'll have those highlights ready.
Yeah, there you go. I don't want to be in trouble, man. So Frank, you're right. That's good. Hey guys, listen, thank you so much. Bless you all.
I appreciate you. Appreciate
you. Thank you for coming on.
All right.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
I'll holler at you. Wow. Like a bucket of knowledge. He was just
on multiple fronts.
Yes. Sports, theater, music, everything.
Life.
Yeah. Man. Whew. Oh my God. Information overload. Oh, I need to take a second to decompress. Just so knowledgeable about everything and very honest. Very honest. Like if the NFL had a bunch of referees like him, I think Vegas would be mad.
I think Tom Brady gets sacked and there's no tuck rule.
True. Yeah, he's very honest, man. Very honest. But great guest. I'm glad we got a chance to talk to him. But back to this running back thing. So aside from talking about the current running backs, we're 2 hours and 33 minutes in. So I guess we're not going to get into all of it tonight. But I wanted to comprise a list of top 10 Chicago Bears running backs since 1980. Since 1980. So I don't want to talk about Willie Gallimore because I don't know much about that. I don't want to talk about Ray Grange because I don't know much about that. I don't want to talk about Rick Caesar or Caesaris or whatever. I don't know much about that. Let's talk about 1980 and forward. So the first thing that I think we should do is throw out a bunch of running back names. And of course,
top 5 right now, no question.
Well, I mean, top 5 is easy.
I know.
After 5,
I know. Everybody has a top 5 right now. And that's why I decided to make it more challenging. Top 10. Top 10. Because, I mean, okay, Walter Payton, Neil Anderson, Matt Forte, Thomas Jones. That's
Gale Sayers.
That's easy.
Gale Sayers is before 1980, so you can't say that.
Oh, crap. He is before 1980s, damn it.
So that's easy. But what about Raymond Harris?
I'm about to say
Raymond's definitely
what about Anthony Thomas?
What about A-Train?
Let's give those guys their flowers.
I mean, you could even throw Jordan Howard in there.
Rashawn Salam, 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards rookie year. Like, there's some names.
So let's give those guys their flowers too. You know? So, okay. So we put out some more names. We put out Raymond Harris. We put out A-Train, Anthony Thomas. Mm-hmm. We put out Jordan Howard. Let's put out who else? James Allen.
Number 20, James Allen, Eric Kramer years was very, very instrumental in the passing game.
Yep.
I mean, I can go back if you want to go back for some names, like just bringing up Johnny Bailey, Tim Rowe,
Tim Worley.
Right, an aging Merrill Hodge. You know, we can go Craig Ironhead.
Brad Muster was the 80s too.
Edgar Bennett.
Right.
Bennett.
When we got him from Green Bay, like we can put up some names.
We can pull out a bunch, but what I want to do is shape it into 10. So I think that we've put out some names now, and you know, if people watch this podcast, the next podcast, maybe they can chime in.
I was gonna say, what if we put like a little thing up in the group or in our Facebook group chat and have everybody?
I think that's
pick
what we
their
do.
top
Like
10,
create a poll,
and then we'll put it on the show next week.
Good idea.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
And we'll put the list of all the people that we put up there, and we'll see whoever has the highest percentage, and it gives a top 10.
Running back you right now, and I read a blurb that stated that we were ranked. Get this, we were ranked 17th overall as far as Bears offensive skill players. Did y'all see that?
Mm-mm.
And then there's another thing that states that Matt Eberflus is the worst coach in the NFL.
Yeah, I did read that one.
But they're not wrong.
I saw that. I did see that.
They're not wrong, but it's skewed. He's not the worst because he's just that bad. He was the worst because of some in-game management decisions and then what Ryan Poles decided to do after a 3-4 start. Tanking is not on the coach, in my opinion. Tanking was told to the coach by upper management, be it ownership or GM.
I'm sorry, I can't say he was the worst coach over freaking that shit show that happened in the Raiders.
They had a better record than we did.
They had way more potential than we did too.
Nathaniel Hackett got fired.
Nathaniel Hackett, another one. Look at that. Super Bowl contenders was Daniel Hackett, and he shit the bed.
So look, this is what I think we should do. We should go ahead and get into shout outs, and we should talk about we should mention the fact that we're gonna do this top 10 running backs, but also we are going to have a get together. I'm thinking maybe sometime in July, or maybe
that's now.
We're mid-July.
Sometime later in July or in August, we are going to have a pizza party. So we're gonna have a Giordano's.
Yeah, there it is.
We're gonna have a Giordano's outing, and Wendell Davis has already said that he's in. So I guess I just talked about it right there.
Yeah, you just.
So let's get into some shout outs and let's get out of here because my chest is tight.
I don't know what that means.
Chest is tight. Huh?
My chest is tight and I want to get out of here.
All right, who's going
that
first?
Was not a pause.
It was a pause moment.
That was not a pause.
Hey Frank, I tell my son all the time at 46 years of age, I'm too old to pause. I said what I said and I meant
Fast forward.
I meant that shit.
All right, I'll start it off with the shout outs. I'll leave the chat to you, JB, since you like going with the chat so much. But I'm gonna give a shout out since I didn't get to talk about it, was my Chicago Blackhawks. I'm giving them the shout out. They were listed by NHL as an A+ in the draft. Yes, Connor Bedard is part of that, but they got so much speed in the draft this year. Young, speedy type kids. They have 3 of their first round draft picks coming to the team next year, which is going to be huge. It may not be a great year record type wise, but it's going to be a fun year regardless. And this was something I was talking to T-Nick before, JB, when you were late. But they had a trade proposal coming from the Toronto Maple Leafs for one of their star players, saying, he's like, oh, you want my star player? I want Connor Bedard, Oliver Moore, your other first-round pick, and 3 first-round picks. According to Chicago Blackhawks, our general manager just hung up the phone, said
As
nothing,
he
just
should.
hung up the phone and walked away. He's like, "What the fuck you think I am, stupid?"
As he should.
So good for him having a GM who isn't going to be putting up with that shit. That was somebody trying to take advantage of a 34-year-old GM. So you got my shout out today. Nice job, Blackhawks. You didn't fuck it up. Everybody knew you were getting Connor Bedard. 9.7 million jerseys it's now up to sold, and he still hasn't played a freaking game.
Wow.
He hasn't even reported to camp.
Wow.
All right, that's my shout out, though.
That's it.
That's
Okay.
it. I'll let JB handle the chat.
JB, it's on you.
So first and foremost, shout out to you guys. I was late. Thank you for holding me down. I just love being here. I hate being late, but my passion is teaching kids how to be better at sports, and then that transition to sports, be better in life. I can never leave a kid straight. So shout out to you all for holding down and waiting for me to come in. Shout out to the chat, which, I mean, my God, like y'all was on fire again. Samuel F. Blackwell, thank you for chiming in. Samuel, I have to give Samuel extra praise because Samuel started out on Facebook, then some kind of way switched to YouTube, which I'm assuming meant he liked and subscribed, and I'll take that. So thank you, Samuel. We appreciate the love. Brooke Violet, the awesome 3-year-old tonight. Thank you, Brooke, one of our supporters, one of our P1s, one of our former hosts of one of our shows who we have hope to get back on soon when we start another show closer to the season. And Stewart, my main man, another P1, chiming in. Appreciate the love and always has something to say. Jen Howe, thank you for checking in on YouTube. We appreciate the love. The emoji saying, hey, what's up? We appreciate that more than you know. Harry Bird, also better known as Harry the Greek. Harry, love you, man. Harry just had a birthday recently. Happy birthday again. Appreciate it. Thank you for the love. Dark Spectre, you were next. Thank you for chiming in. Always love to see you, my dude. Appreciate you coming on. All the way from Mexico City, Eduardo Caro. And I don't know if I said that right, but just roll with me because I felt a little sexy saying. So thank you, Eduardo, for chiming in. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the love. Anthony McCulphy, if I said that word, if I said your name mistakenly, fix this. It's either McCulphy or Macaulay. Chiming in, air down all the way. Because, you know, I like to give people their props and say their name properly. You know, that's what I like to do. So I appreciate you chiming in. Frank Marshall. I think I know who Frank Marshall is. But I don't know who Frank Marshall is.
I think I know who that motherfucker is.
No, because, you know, first, you know, he got like 5-7 aliases like he's a superhero trying to hide. So appreciate that. Thank you to Lorenzo Clemons. Shout out to you for taking the time and coming on and being so transparent, honest, and knowledgeable about a great myriad of things. It wasn't just about sports. It wasn't just about entertainment. It was about life. And we appreciate that more than you know, and I hope our fans do too. Last but not least, shout out to my mom, Miss Sandra, as most people affectionately call her. I know if we only have one viewer ever on the show, it's her. Shout out to you, Mom. Salute, love. That's all I got.
Wow. Yeah, well, I wanted to mention the chat, but I think you pretty much covered everything, so I'm not going to mention that. Everybody in the chat, though, we appreciate y'all, even the ones who don't say anything, but still watch. But you are officially a lurker.
All for love.
A lurker. But we appreciate you putting up with our foolishness anyway. And I definitely want to give a shout to Ref Clem, Lorenzo Clemons. Man, like JB said, he's a bucket of knowledge about everything. It wasn't just sports. It was about music, theater, life. He got a little bit political, but like I said a long time ago, sometimes you can't really avoid
You can't
really avoid politics in certain.
You can't, especially in sports.
Right. We try, but can't always do it. And yeah, I know it sometimes it's very divisive, and that's one thing that we want to kind of get away from, because we want sports to bring everybody together from all walks of life. But sometimes you just can't avoid it, you know. But I mean, we're gonna try to avoid it as much as we can. I know some people probably got turned off by it, but sorry. Okay, so enough of that. I do want to shout out my dudes, Frank the Tank and JB. Wouldn't be no show without y'all, man. It wouldn't be no show. Don't nobody want to listen to me for 2 hours. Frank, I hope you get your technical stuff together.
I'm gonna have to watch the show tomorrow and find out, because I don't know what the hell it could be.
Man, well, yeah, I heard.
Regardless, if it still happens, then I'll wear a headset next week.
Hey Frank, it doesn't happen all the time, so maybe it's just with this work computer. Who knows? But guess what? You can watch the show tomorrow.
I know, because Foul isn't on. Yeah, whenever Foul does not show up, I can watch the show. Crazy, I don't get it.
Cursing was to a minimum today.
It really was.
So it was peaceful. It was peaceful. Well, we still miss our boy though. Foul Mouth C.
Always
miss our boy.
Always miss that mouth.
Yeah. Shout out to that dude, man. But he was helping his kids. He gave his laptop to his daughter so she could use it for something. So shout out to Foul Mouth C, man. And shout out to TJ. I haven't shouted her out in a minute. She watches these sometimes. I don't know if she's gonna watch this one or not, because it's late. But yeah, super producer. So shout out to her. Shout out to, like you said, JB Brooke. Brooke will actually be coming to Chicago for the first game against Green Bay.
Oh, the first game of the season. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to organize something for maybe that Saturday night.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, let us know.
So yeah, that we want to show her a good time while she's here in Chicago. But that's about it for my shouts, man. Keep your family members close, man. You know, I had someone close this past couple of days ago, very close to me, and it's sad, man. It's really sad. I have some regrets, but you know, I mean, it's life. It's the circle of life. Keep your family close, man. Keep them tight. And you know, don't wait until after they're gone to, man, I should have done this, I should have done that, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have said this. Say it now. Say it now. Give them their flowers now while they're here. But you know,
shout out to Pops team, always.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Yeah, shout out to my dad, man. Miss you, big guy. I really miss you, man. Wish you were here. He was like my number one fan, even though I thought he wasn't watching. He was watching. So, shout out, Dad. But yeah, keep your family members close, man. You never know what's gonna happen. They might not even wake up the next day. You don't know. So don't wait to tell them. Don't wait to tell them you love them. Don't wait to give them their flowers. Do it now.
Don't go ghost on the people you love.
There you go. So I guess that's it for my shouts, man. I'm off my soapbox now. I lost my voice over the weekend. There was
a house picnic.
House picnic. So I was kind of saving my voice during the podcast. I wasn't really talking because I don't really have my voice back. So But it was a good time at the house picnic, man. We were housing it up. We were drinking. We were having a great time. If you missed it, shame on you, because I talked about it for like a month.
Yeah.
I talked about it for like a month, so if you missed it, sorry. Sorry about that, man. But
Next year.
we never send you off, man. If we tell you about an event, it's gonna be lit. It's gonna be dope. What's up?
Can we give the audience a little bit of insight about what Keith Rucker has going on this weekend?
Oh, yeah. So this weekend, Keith Rucker, a former guest of the podcast and a former Cincinnati Bengals, he is having a football camp on this weekend for what, 9 to 14-year-olds?
I think that's it, 9 to 14.
In the south suburbs of Chicago.
HF High School.
And we need
volunteers.
We need counselors and coaches. So anybody, when you're watching and you hear this, you're interested, you're an armchair general manager coach, you sitting there watching the game, telling them how to play, why don't you come out and do it for the kids? We need you, man. We need you to volunteer your time and your knowledge to the kids, man. The kids will appreciate it. Keith will appreciate it, and it'll be great, man. You'll get fed, and if you need a hotel room, he'll take care of you. So,
but most importantly, we get to give back to some kids.
Yes, that's the most important part. So think about that. It is this weekend though, so you only have a couple days to think about it because we're ready to go.
But it's Tuesday. I mean, we got we can make something happen.
Yeah, you got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to think about that shit. All right, so yeah. And with that being said, man, I think we done.
Yeah,
no more to say. But
3 hours, my ass ready for bed.
Yeah. We didn't show this though.
His own sports apparel. So Frank.
Get the shirt, Chicago Clubhouse Podcast.
Model here, like a little finger model here.
Nice designer shirt. great fabric. Thank you, Frank, for that.
You're welcome. I do that every week, T.
But yeah, so great fabric, great design.
It really is.
Well,
very
normally
nice.
You wear it and you model it on. So.
Sometimes I wear it, yeah. But I rushed today. Didn't have to get it on.
So with all of that being said, I think we done. This has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.
Good night, Guam.
Good night, Canada. Yeah.